All right, that took a little bit for it to go live. What is going on, everybody? This is Randall Thor 19, the man with the million, back again with another Xbox 2 podcast. How's everybody doing? Hope everybody is well. It's finally December, and as always, we are joined by the incredible, amazing, the incredible, amazing Jez Corden.
That's me.
From Windows Central, who's doing back-to-back podcast duties like I did last week. This is almost like my revenge on Jez, you could say, but not really. What's going on, buddy?
Yeah, man, rocking and rolling, same old, you know me. Just sort of, it's been taking it easy since Black Friday got done with. Man, I'm so glad Black Friday's over and don't have to deal with all that extra work for another year. And now I'm just sort of trying to take it a bit easy between now and Christmas, I guess. How have you been? Do you want to tell the good people why there was no show yesterday? If you didn't already.
Yeah, because we couldn't. There's like literally no way to do the show. I woke up to put the show together. I'm like, all right, let me put everything together so everything's good. And then I woke up and my alarm clock didn't show anything, and I was just like, oh, wait a minute. So I walked out into the kitchen and yeah, there's no power. Went downstairs and no power to anything. So it's like, all right, well, this is great. So we couldn't do the show and I was all ready to do the show too. Power is kind of important to do stuff.
Yeah, generally speaking, you kind of need electricity to do a podcast. But I wonder how they did podcasts in the Middle Ages. Yeah, we are live on a Saturday again. This is the second. Did we do Saturday last week as well? We did, didn't we?
Yes, we did, yes.
So, 2 Saturdays in a row. Hopefully next time we'll be here on a Friday. But Rand, I've got a sponsorship ad to read.
Oh, here we go. Already? Is the Xbox 2 podcast powered by Manscaped?
Yes, indeed it is. We are still powered by Manscaped. It's holiday season, Rand. That means there are stockings to be stuffed and elves to be cuffed. Well, today's sponsor, Manscaped.
Elves to be cuffed?
I don't know.
What does that mean?
I don't know. They stealing stuff out of your house? I don't know. Maybe they're trying to steal your Manscaped products, so you have to handcuff them. And I don't know. But anyway, our today's sponsor, Manscaped, has gone global with the tools to guarantee you will score not only under the tree, but also under the mistletoe. Manscaped is the leader in men's below-the-waist grooming, and they have served more than 4 million men worldwide. If my math is correct, that's almost 8 million balls.
Jesus Christ.
Get 20% off. Free shipping at manscaped.com with the Xbox 2 code XB2. 20% off. Free shipping at manscaped.com with code XB and the number 2. And thanks to Manscaped for sponsoring this video. So, Rand, jingle bells. Jingle bells. Jingle balls. I hadn't read that whole read before, so like I was sort of not expecting the 8 million balls part. I was reading through. I was like, what about
all
a whole lot of balls?
What about all the dudes out there that are unfortunate they only have one ball though, Jez? Huh?
Oh dear. I suppose those people do exist. But one ball, man. Rough times, but it happens. But anyway, that's Manscaped. Thanks to them for again sponsoring the show, and of course XB2 in the checkout to get 20% off. Lots of good gifts there for like stocking fillers, t-shirts, boxes, cologne. The cologne's actually really good. I use it myself to smell gorgeous when I'm out on the town. Not that I go out really, but you know. Yeah.
Who goes out in this day and age, right?
Yeah, true.
With all these different Omnicrons and Transformer code names for different various things.
Megatron variant and Unicron variant. Yeah.
Who goes outside anymore?
Who goes outside? You don't need to go outside. You can just stay inside with shaved balls, listening to XP2. That's how it rocks and rolls.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's the sponsor, guys, and we got super chats coming in already, Rand.
Oh yeah. I'm gonna have to check some of these out. We got one from Flame, who says, even though I think there's there's no Manscaped ad read on this podcast. Well, you were wrong there. I still got a YouTube ad about Manscaped. Ironic. Have a great show, fellas.
Oh wow.
And he also said, never mind, there's the ad read. They doubled down for you. Yeah, good. Thanks, Manscaped. Silver says, hey guys, love you all. What do you think about Hellblade 2 and Avowed on the Game Awards? That's actually a topic. We will be talking about that, which is no surprise for any of you guys listening to the podcast, because I think we told you months and months ago that Hellblade 2 was going to be at the Game Awards, right, Jez?
Yeah, so like I think what I'd heard, the exact terminology that I'd been told, was that Hellblade 2 would show up before the end of the year. And at the time we didn't know if Microsoft was going to have some kind of event of their own, but obviously they're not. So the only logical place to show that now is the Game Awards. So yeah. Hellblade is definitely going to be there, I would say. But Jeff Grubb also said Avowed was going to be there, which is interesting.
We'll be talking about that a little bit later on. Gina Marie says, hey, I watch you guys all the time. Absolutely love the podcast, guys. Jez is on double duty for podcast today. Yes, double duty. Double duty is always tough. He's also playing Dark Souls. If you guys didn't know, Jez is now a believer in Dark Souls.
I believe.
I believe. What are your feelings about Dark Souls now and FromSoft? Are you going to just binge the entire series? Do Dark Souls 1, 2, 3, Bloodborne, Sekiro, which is their best game?
Maybe not. Sekiro was tough. Sekiro was hard, but I don't know. Maybe Sekiro as well. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But man, I think I don't know. It's Monster Hunter, man. Monster Hunter is the main reason that I was able to get into this now. Because Monster Hunter is superficially similar, like with the stamina meter, all the weapons playing differently, and the way you build your character and stuff. So from being addicted to Monster Hunter, this time when I come into Dark Souls, I had the right mindset going in, and now I just love it. I'm absolutely loving it. I killed the Gaping Dragon last night, whatever his name is, and I'm just gonna go through all of them, see how long it takes. But I tell you what's really nice about it, Rand, more so than anything else, it's just a video game, man. There's no battle pass, there's no microtransactions. It's just a video game. And it feels like so long since I've just played a video game, and that wasn't full of all that other extra crap. So shout out to FromSoft for getting me 10 years after the fact, but we got there in the end.
So you're saying it feels good to actually play something that isn't a games as a service that wants you to keep on spending money and wants you to, get XP and do all these things and tempt you with cosmetics? Are you saying it's nice to actually just be like, here's a game that I can play and not have to worry about any of that?
Yeah, it feels like experiences like this are becoming increasingly rare, or they're going to be like the realm of indies and stuff like that. I mean, we do have Mortal Shell just hit Game Pass, and that is sort of like a quality Souls-like from what people tell me. Like, it's like a good indie Souls-like kind of game. So, I've got this entire world of games open up to me potentially. Like, now that I sort of get it now somehow, and it's all thanks to Monster Hunter, really. I don't know why Monster Hunter was able to suck me in where Dark Souls wasn't, but I don't know. Got there in the end.
We have a super chat from Gina Marie, says, praise the sun, which is a Dark Souls reference. David Miller says, work with Bungie in the transition, just played Halo and got worked. And Face, he says, before I told you so, people, PlayStation Spartacus will not be a competitor to Game Pass. It's a constellation or rebranding PlayStation Now, since PlayStation Plus is already at 47 million subs. It makes sense to get rid of PlayStation Now branding. I kind of agree with you about the PlayStation Now branding. However, it is a competitor to Game Pass. It doesn't necessarily need to have a one-to-one feature set to be a competitor, and PlayStation views it internally as a competitor. So it's competing with Xbox Game Pass. That's just the God's honest truth. And yeah. We'll
have to see to the extent that it competes with Game Pass, I guess. But Yeah, we're going to talk about that more in depth in a bit.
Yes. Yes, we will. So I guess what I've been playing I can't really talk about, not yet, but Jez, I played Halo Infinite's campaign for a while, and then I kind of was reading my books, and now I'm back playing the Halo Infinite campaign again. I know you finished the game, right?
Yes, indeed. I finished it. Can't talk about it, so don't ask. But Brendan Lowry and Windows Central's reviewing it. I'm not reviewing it, but I'll probably write an opinion about it or something supplementary to the full review. But yeah, mostly I've just been playing Dark Souls recently. I've also been playing a little bit of Halo Infinite multiplayer here and there, but it just hasn't gripped me that much. I think the progression system might be the main reason why. But I don't know. That's all I've been playing, man. Dark Souls.
Dark Souls.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Like the review for Halo Infinite's coming up soon, and I've been thinking about making a video, but not really sure. Maybe I'll just talk about it on the podcast the following week, but maybe I'll make a regular video because I talked about most of my feelings about the game in my preview video, like how, Valor works and how the open world functions and stuff like that. So it would be more like how the story feels, to me, essentially, which I don't really want to spoil for anybody, So
yeah. I don't know. I would watch a spoiler if you did a spoiler video about the story. Maybe later on, I would like to hear your opinion on the story at least.
I mean, I'll tell you. I mean, I'm sure I'll tell you how I feel because you finished it. I don't want to spoil it for anybody. So,
if I was a viewer,
no, I know, but I don't want to even really spoil it for. I might do one of those things where it's like, no spoiler, and then like, okay, now I'm gonna spoil. Well, I really can't. Not until later, anyways.
Yeah.
But yeah. But either way,
okay.
Yeah. Otherwise, I don't know, man. It's been, I don't know. It's just Halo Infinite is just well, we'll talk about that next week. I really can't say more about it.
Yeah, you can't say more. Really.
Yeah. Jelly says, "Good show, boys. How likely is it that we'll get a content drop on the 8th for Halo? Dark Souls 3, best game ever. Go Jez." How likely is it? Well, here's the thing. They've kind of talked about, like, even the playlist updates not even being dropped then. I don't know. Like, there's people expecting 13 new maps dropping on the 8th, which is, I mean, I'm like 90% sure isn't going to happen. I'll never say 100% sure, but like, I'm pretty sure that's not happening. I'm pretty sure what we have right now is exactly what's going to be there on the 8th. Because I know a lot of people have been being like, well, you can't criticize this because it's a beta, but it's just like, I don't really think it's a beta. This is like V1. And there's not going to be suddenly, you're not going to wake up on the 8th and suddenly see 10 new maps and all these new playlists. It's just, it is what it is. I wonder if they'll remove the beta moniker, if they'll actually start calling it like the actual like
V1.
release, because Fortnite was like in beta for years. And did you see Fortnite, the leaked Fortnite stuff for the Battle Pass is adding Gears characters, Jez? Did you see that?
No way.
Yeah,
really?
Marcus and
awesome.
Kate. They're in the trailer.
Is so weird.
And Spider-Man, and like 4 different Spider-Men.
So not Dark Souls, Gears of War and Spider-Man in the same update. I would not have seen that coming. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Kind of cool though.
Yeah, I mean, for anybody that likes Gears and likes Fortnite, they can. I mean, Fortnite just seems to have everything now. They got Master Chief. They got Kratos from God of War. Now, this Spider-Man necessarily isn't like Spider-Man from the Sony games, but more of like Spider-Man in general. I mean, obviously there's a new Spider-Man movie coming out, but it was funny. A lot of the trailer, focused a lot on Spider-Man. So I was like, that's probably a big get for them, right?
Yeah.
To have Spider-Man in Fortnite. But guess what? Still don't care about Fortnite. Although it is, I don't know. I think it's kind of odd that Gears characters are there now.
Why?
I don't know. It makes me almost think like maybe Gear 6 is about to get revealed. I don't know.
Oh wow. I mean, I like it mainly because that's Microsoft kind of saying, yeah, we still care about Gears. You know, the fact they even bothered to do that impresses me somehow in a weird way. I don't even know how to explain what I'm trying to say here, but I just would not have expected Microsoft to be like, yeah, you know what, Gears deserves to be in that kind of franchise. I don't know, but I'm happy about it. Definitely happy about it.
Yeah. The Dutch Rudder 81 says Xbox Chatter Days is Xbox 2's beta the last couple of weeks. Love both shows, gentlemen. Yeah.
Miles is awesome. Does a great job.
Yeah. Miles Dampier is pretty damn awesome, except when he's talking about Nintendo. He's got a blind spot for Nintendo, you know, which we'll forgive him. We'll forgive him that. I mean, a lot of people have a blind spot for Nintendo. And even
Rand, like playing with fire right now.
Oh yeah, well you know how it is between me and Miles. Even he's doing double duty today because he's going to be on Game On Daily in 30 minutes or so to do that incredible show. Love Gaz and Asa, and I it's unfortunate that sometimes we have to do the show on the same day, but it is what it is. David all says, as an insider, Millennium Building and Redmond Building 343 or Building 34, Halo is expanding battles to 60 plus a side. So, yeah, interesting if that's true. I had heard there was like a new mode coming to Halo, a bigger mode. Like, remember when we were teasing that Halo multiplayer was like going to be free to play, which we had known about for like, I don't know, 6 months before they announced it, right?
Yeah.
I'd also heard from the same person that told me that it was free to play was that they were working on another mode, like a bigger mode than like what Warzone was in Halo 5. And you know,
it is interesting the lack of cloud flex that exists in Halo Infinite right now.
Is it not
You'd think this would be one game where they'd be like, yeah, look at all what we can do with our cloud, but it's pretty standard at the moment, just dedicated servers, right? It's interesting.
Is it not cloud native?
No, not really, because it doesn't have touchable menus. It gives you touch controls, I think, but it doesn't it's not as cloud native as Minecraft Dungeons is. Like Minecraft Dungeons, like you can touch the menus and everything. It's like the whole game was basically running natively on your phone, but not so much with Halo Infinite, I think. But I don't know. We'll have to wait and see what they do with it.
Yeah, we definitely are gonna have to wait and see. Hold on, let me see what I missed here. Xbox expansion pass, the one and only Insipid Ghost. Thank you, Luke. He says Xbox 2 rocks. Cheers, Jez and Rand. Guns a Gun says Gears coming to Fortnite is kind of cool though, since Epic developed the first trilogy and such. I mean, that is true.
Oh, yeah,
that didn't even cross my mind. It was just like,
didn't.
Hey, because I just think of Gears as an Xbox thing, and I was like, oh yeah, Epic did make the first few.
Epic
the first
is
3.
So different now.
Yeah, they are, aren't they? It's like if it's not Fortnite, we don't care.
Yeah.
If it's not
that,
Fortnite,
like literally didn't even enter my mind. That's interesting.
Yeah, other than Halo Infinite, I've kind of just been chilling, reading the Tawny Man trilogy and watching Wheel Time on Prime Video, which was definitely super interesting. I'm gonna get you to watch that, Jez. I want you to watch at least episode 1. Watch it with your girlfriend. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll check it out.
You sure? You're actually gonna check it out, or are you just saying that?
Yeah, I will. I will, man.
Okay.
Maybe.
Okay.
Maybe.
So, I don't know. Where do you want to start? Where do you want to start with that first here, Jez?
It's up to you, brother. You pick the topics. And
there's not that many topics this week. You want to talk about the Xbox Handheld?
Yeah, we can briefly touch on that. There's not a huge amount to say about it at the moment. But, yeah, so this was I teased earlier in the week that there was going to be some interesting interesting week for Xbox cloud gaming. And then we had like first of all the clarity boost they revealed, which is like an algorithm update which should make streaming video encoding a little bit sharper. And it definitely seems to work. Definitely seemed a bit sharper to me. I always test the same game. I always test Scarlet Nexus because, like, if I stick to the same game, it's like easy to see the differences. So Scarlet Nexus definitely looked a bit sharper after that update. And then on Wednesday, we saw that Razer and Qualcomm had been working on a handheld for Android that had basically cloud gaming in mind. And like in their internal presentation, they specifically talk about console streaming from Xbox, and they specifically talk about Xbox cloud gaming as well. So like that Razer handheld thing, right now it's just a dev kit. But it's like what Qualcomm want people to do is go away and make their own devices. And since I've heard for a while that Microsoft's been dabbling with handheld devices for xCloud, it makes sense to me that if they were going to go down the route of making an Xbox handheld, they'd probably just use this Qualcomm chipset because it has everything you need on board to make a cloud gaming device, like Android support and then like Wi-Fi 6 and, you know, full-blown 5G and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, I do think we are at some point going to see some kind of handheld Xbox device from Microsoft, maybe using this chipset, but I don't know when, I don't know if. I personally believe it'll happen, but you probably won't use it, right?
No, I mean, no, I don't really I have the Switch and I never even used it like handheld, right? It was always just docked. I don't know, I'm not the type of person that would want to play on the go handheld. And I'm just kind of thinking like, okay, so we have the Steam Deck coming out next year, and we already know in some ways it already plays Xbox games. You know, Xbox games are native on Steam, right? There's even talk that it might even play some, you know, Game Pass in some form or shape, right? And then you have this new device from Razer, which does look pretty expensive, but also it is going to stream Game Pass games. It's going to stream games from the console to the device, as well as from your PC to the device. So it's like, okay, so I guess that makes sense.
It also like it also does Android gaming natively. So like while like a lot of probably most of the people on this podcast aren't really into Android gaming that much, games like Call of Duty Mobile and Fortnite and whatever on Android are absolutely massive around the world. This is like the first console that's really for that gamer, I guess. So there's that aspect to it as well. It could actually increase competition on the console space, which is interesting to think about as well.
Well, I mean, so the thing is like, does Xbox want to or need to do their own R&D and actually build a dedicated handheld console when you have Steam doing the Steam Deck and you have this Razer thing? Is it worth? Is there a market? I guess the question is there a market for a dedicated handheld from Xbox? That I would imagine if Xbox makes it, it would have to be a local. Like you would have to be able to somehow play the games locally on there. Because because it's like, okay, stream, like I understand the whole push for streaming with xCloud, but I feel like if Microsoft was offering a handheld that was expensive, which it probably would be, like you would have to be able to somehow play your games locally as well as being able to stream your games there. And I'm just, part of me just sits there and wonder if that's something Microsoft is really interested in spending a lot of money on, considering, you know, your phone and your tablet are already streaming devices that you can play. They already have all these different, like, what's that one thing that you use to play? Like you put it on the sides of your phone and play, like the Kishi and the Backbone and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, Razer Kishi, Backbone, GameSir, Like, I can see your argument. Like, if all these other companies are making these devices, why the hell would Microsoft bother? Because they can just let someone else do it and then bring it to them. The problem with that is, Rand, is that they all suck.
You think the Steam Deck is going to suck?
Well, I don't think the Steam Deck's gonna suck, but if all you wanted to do was play Xbox cloud gaming on it, maybe there's a way Microsoft can make that device but cheaper, you know? Like, is there a way for Microsoft to, make a device that only does streaming and so can be like cheaper potentially? Um, you know, so there's that angle to it. Because if you don't need a full-blown Steam Deck to play some of those games, but and also like a lot of the handhelds aren't that great. So it could go either way, I think. I think either Microsoft could be like, yeah, we'll see how these other devices play out. Maybe they'll be good, maybe they'll be bad. And, if they're good, then fine. We'll just sort of leave it as is. But if they're actually good, then you could say, I mean, if they're actually bad, then maybe Microsoft needs to step in and actually make one. Because right now, the only games that really are good on xCloud are the ones that you don't need a separate clip for your phone on. And Microsoft actually released a blog post this week that was like, you know what? All the games that support touch controls actually have twice as much engagement. So that could be an argument against making a handheld entirely. Maybe they just double down on making games work better with touch. It's a complicated problem to have, I suppose. How do you do it? Do you make your own device and all the risk that comes with that, or do you rely on other companies to do it? And then, we also had a patent from Sony this week where Sony are making their own clip for mobile controllers, which is probably going to be way higher quality than the other options out there, whereas Microsoft doesn't have their own one right now. So, like, you have to rely on these third-party ones, and some of them are just terrible. Like, Nacon, I think they made one. It was like one of the worst accessories I've ever used. It was just so cheap and so like hard to use, and the triggers were horrible, and everything about it was bad and wrong. So it's like, do you leave it up to third parties to fix that for you when like so many of them just can't seem to do it properly? I don't know, but I can see it being working both ways.
Yeah, maybe.
Ultimately.
Maybe, I don't know. It's just
put it in chat. See what chat thinks.
I did put a. You're not even looking at chat. Come on, I did put a poll up because I think this is interesting. I mean, personally, it's like when people talk about banjo. I don't care about banjo. So when people talk about games that they want Xbox to make, banjo's never at the top of my mind. And if they did announce it, I wouldn't care. I feel like the exact same way about a handheld. It's not a product I would ever use. It's not a product I would think about using. It's not something that like my dream of hardware or whatever for Xbox to make. It's not something that comes to my mind because it's not something I'll use. Just like Banjo is a game I wouldn't play. And I'm trying to think, like, does Microsoft need that as part of their hardware offerings? Like, you already have the Series S at the cheap price point, which won Black Friday, which I think we touched on a little bit last week. I guess maybe we can expound upon it a little bit more, but you have that. Then you have the Series X, the world's most powerful console, but you can't buy one. And also there's that I'll talk about, Jez, like chip shortages. Everybody's making these things, and it seems like the shortages are going to go on for a bit. So, I don't know. And then there's like, okay, well, if you're going to do a handheld, are you going to leverage xCloud? Where it's streaming only, or are you also going to then have to be like, okay, well, no, we need people to download games to this, and then okay, when are we going to actually release this product? Like, are we talking 2023, 2024? 2023 we've talked about on this show for a long time is basically going to be when Xbox's first party and Microsoft vision of games coming every quarter is when we think that is going to be realized. Is that when you launch a product like that? Do you wait till later? I don't. Are you also planning on making Series S slimmer, which it's already a slim console, but like, are you going to scale down the Series X and make a slim version? They've done that for all their consoles since the 360. So, like, I just wondered how many, like, different hardware plans they have. Plus, not to mention a streaming box, like Project Hobart, right, that Brad Sams talked about, that, Phil sort of alluded to when he was doing interviews. They're obviously going to put Game Pass on smart TV apps. Is I don't know. I just kind of like look at it as like is a proper handheld that right now 59% of people say hell yeah they want something that should be on an Xbox roadmap for future hardware, because you would imagine then there's next gen hardware that they got to start thinking about at this point. There's just a lot of things that go into it, and it's just like, I don't know, maybe my trepidation is because I don't want the hardware or I don't care about handhelds. So to me, it's just like, yeah, whatever, who cares? But I mean,
you think the money could be spent better elsewhere?
Well, yeah, maybe the money could be spent better elsewhere. But then you look at the Switch and how they dominate and how a lot of people buy indie games. A lot of people buy games there simply because of the portability factor. But then if you were Xbox and you could actually add that into your strategy outside of mobile phones and tablets, maybe that comes a boon for you. Maybe it's like a lot of people are like, well, I don't want to play games on my phone because it's not really a gaming device. But if Xbox had a $300, actual handheld that I could download games locally to, then maybe I would not buy them on the Nintendo Switch anymore, because this is better. And then because I could take that game from my hardware and then I could play it on the PC if I wanted, and I could play it on my console. I guess there's a lot of things that they would have to think about. So, I mean, I think even in your article you had mentioned, right, that you had heard that there was an internal prototype at some point, right?
Yeah, I've heard they've been prototyping some of this stuff out. Like, but again, they make prototypes all the time. We saw we've seen prototypes of like Razer Kishi like devices from Microsoft too that never came out. So I don't know. Like, part of me is kind of like they need to do this because of the Nintendo Switch angle. Like, a lot of kids are growing up now, and Nintendo Switch is all they know of console gaming. Is Microsoft like missing a beat here by not having a competitor in that space? Or does the Nintendo Switch only work because of the nostalgia factor from all those games like Pokemon and stuff like that? Like, I wouldn't have a Nintendo Switch and put up with its like laggy hardware if it wasn't for like the fact that it's got so many nostalgic IP on it. Like, basically for me, Nintendo Switch is literally a Pokemon machine, and then maybe a little bit of Metroid when they release one of those once in a blue moon,
Yeah.
So would that even work for Microsoft? Would people, if it was native, would they want to play like Gears of War, like with reduced everything? And then you factor in price as well. Like, can you even get a device that cheap, even if it, runs on? Does Nvidia have not Nvidia? Does AMD even have a chip that could compete with Nvidia on price when it's in a device that small? There's a hell of a lot of risk and investment and technological things that need to be considered to go into a device like that. So, yeah, and if they do make a streaming only device, then you run into infrastructure problems. You can't even sell it in countries that don't support xCloud, like India and stuff.
That is true.
You can't even sell it in countries that don't have 5G or like the proper network infrastructure to support streaming in the first place. So it's a complicated problem to have, and it's something Microsoft's going to have to consider, because they've got competition coming in from all angles right now. We talk about the PlayStation Plus Xbox Game Pass competitor. They're going to have like all sorts of competition right now. They've got competition from mobile. They've got investors asking them why like they don't have like more than like Minecraft on as part of their mobile play. Like, and then xCloud itself had queues recently. I don't know if you saw this, Rand.
Well, I had heard that xCloud is doing a lot. I had heard that xCloud is doing better than forecasted, I guess.
Yeah, I've heard that too. But there's also like the issue of xCloud is bottlenecked by the chip shortage.
That's true.
Because they can't get the server blades, like they can't make Xbox Series X's, and then it's bottlenecked by infrastructure and local, laws, and man, it's complicated. I'm glad I don't have to sit there and figure this stuff out.
Yeah,
a lot of people like to think they could run $1 trillion business, but I'm in the camp that firmly admits I wouldn't have the first clue about what they should do in this instance.
Yeah,
So,
we'd be fired after a couple months, but and we got a bunch of questions here that in the super chat that I'll get to. Jose says PS Game Pass won't work because devs won't get paid. Am I right? Yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit later. It's kind of fun. By the way, Jez, I noticed you got a new little avatar thing.
I do, yeah. Sean Labrie made me a little avatar.
The man, Sean Labrie. Man, if you ever need artwork, he's the man to go to, right?
Yeah, Sean Labrie is awesome. Because Rand, I've been live streaming a little bit here and there.
Okay.
I thought, maybe I'll put some artwork together, maybe make a YouTube channel of my own, but probably just stick to live streams. I don't know. Because I do miss it a little bit. I miss the glory days of Mixer. I miss all that stuff. So.
Man, Mixer going down the drain, huh? You remember that, Jez? You remember? I remember thinking Microsoft won't pull the plug and kill Mixer. They're going to keep on throwing money after it because of the initial investment and stuff, and how they want to have that play for xCloud, right? Where it's like streamers streaming, do you want to play this? Press button, go, right?
Yeah.
And then they surprised me because they killed it really quickly. Which is something that needed to be done, unfortunately. Like, you hate saying it, but Mixer was going nowhere.
That's hella mean, Rand.
I mean,
I'm kind of
when literally every company was growing during a pandemic and you weren't, there's some major problems.
Yeah. Well, the major problem was, ironically, not enough money, according to what I've been told. But that's the thing about these things. You can throw money at them forever, and if they just keep not working, then you're just spinning the wheels. Which is why it's kind of cool to hear that xCloud is beating projections, because that is one place they could end up throwing loads of money and it just end up going nowhere. But it does seem to be working for them at the moment.
Well, for now, I've always had my doubts about xCloud and if there's actually like a large group of gamers out there that want to play streaming but then didn't want to own a console. And maybe in some other countries like India that's a thing, but maybe Microsoft, I mean, like you said, $1 trillion company, they know what they're doing, but sometimes you have to ask yourself, do they? Because they did Xbox One and Sony did the PS3. So sometimes companies make mistakes, Jez.
Yeah.
And it really hurts them.
That's true.
David says, what I want to hear is Rand play a game after 7 shots of Peyton Silver with lime and salt. I don't know what Peyton Silver is. Sounds like an alcoholic drink. I don't actually drink. So you definitely won't see me taking shots of anything. In fact, the last time I had a drink was with Tim Dog at E3 when we were at the bar of his hotel. I had I think I had Long Island iced tea, and
I got so drunk on those.
That's it. I had one, and that was it, and that was the only thing I drank. But even before that, like I just don't drink, so you won't see me getting drunk. Yaquin says, afternoon gents, what did you guys take from Phil Spencer saying that today he feels like they could have kept Bungie? I mean, it's not a surprise considering that we had heard that they were trying to get Bungie back at one point.
Did he say that?
Yeah, Steven Totillo had has some quotes from him from October that he kind of brought back because Bungie's 30th anniversary is next week.
Right.
And, Phil was like, yeah, I understand why they left. But maybe if... He kind of implied that, like, if the team that was in right now was there back then when they wanted to leave, they would have kept them. Or they would have been able to convince them to stay or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's funny because on Chatter Days with Miles, we were talking about a little bit about Respawn. I suppose we'll talk about Vince Zampella being promoted in a bit as well. But it's like one of the interesting things about that whole discussion is that Microsoft could have today's Microsoft would have been able to buy Respawn, but the Respawn of the Titanfall 1 era, there was just no chance of it happening because Xbox was so underfunded. So
it wasn't even that. I mean, I think EA had if I remember the story correctly, somebody came in to buy Respawn, and EA had first right of refusal or whatever it's called.
Oh, really?
Because of their deal with Titanfall and their publishing, and
Right.
then EA basically closed down. What's the
That's
studio
trying
that
to
did
buy it.
the studio that did Dead Space? You know the studio
Visceral.
name? Visceral. They shut down Visceral, and then they ended up buying Respawn, which good for them because Respawn is like the best thing about EA at this point. But yeah, I remember reading, I think it was Jason Schreier's article talking about that, where basically like EA had it in their contract where if somebody tried to buy Respawn, then they basically had the right to offer like a bigger thing or something.
Okay.
So
Well, Microsoft of now probably could have outbid EA.
well, for sure, for sure.
If that was the thing, but I don't know. It's easy to talk about what ifs and whatnots, but I do think Bungie would benefit from being with Microsoft today. Like what they want to do with Destiny, like it's a cloud game. There's no one better to partner with for that kind of game, I would say.
Well, you know, Jez, really quickly, the poll here: do you want Xbox to make their own handheld? 413 votes. 58% say hell yeah, and 42% say hell no.
That's pretty split.
So it's split, and I think people do want it. So yeah, it's interesting to see if, you know, especially with their mobile push, like you think maybe a native handheld is in the cards. I guess we'll find out eventually.
I think like
sure.
It's ultimately about other markets. It's about countries where the tax on electronics is ridiculously high, like Brazil, for example. Like I've heard that Forza Horizon 5 is doing really well on cloud in Brazil because of the confluence of those different factors. Like A, it's hard to get a console there because there's no stock. B, if there is stock, chances are you might not be able to afford it because of all the tax that goes on imports and all that stuff. And so, like, it's very much a luxury item there. So, Forza being playable on phones and tablets and PCs via xbox.com/play or whatever, or via the Game Pass app, that is like huge in certain territories because of those issues coming together. So, while it might not be that interesting for those of us who generally play, generally play locally. I know I'm rarely out of the house, so, and when I am out of the house, chances are it's for an event. Chances are I won't be able to play xCloud anyway. But for people like with kids, who maybe the kids take over the TV and stuff like that, or maybe they want to play something else, again, xCloud is a great option to have, It's interesting. It's an interesting conversation.
Yeah, Phased Dank Doge says, do you think we'll see Redfall at the TGAs? The interesting thing about the TGAs is, and I've thought about that, like, Redfall's coming out next year, still, supposedly. I mean, you never know, end up with delays and stuff like that, but right now it's scheduled for summer of 2022. I think it's going to release in September, if I had to take a guess. I think it's a September release, and some people be like, September's not summer. Technically, yes, it is. It's summer until September 21st. So I think Redfall will come in September, and I think Forza Motorsport will come in October, and I think, well, we know that Starfield is November. Presumably no delays for any of those games. You would think, like, well, with the VGAs coming, would they want to start marketing Redfall and Starfield or Forza Motorsport because they're coming sooner? Like, we'll talk a little bit later on, but like, Hellblade and Avowed are presumably, at least to our thinking, 2023. Now, maybe there's a slight chance Hellblade 2's next year. I doubt it, but you would wonder, okay, why not have something for Redfall at the TGAs since it's coming next year?
There could be loads they could put in the show, I think Redfall would make sense there too. If it's in a state where they've sort of locked down the gameplay loop, because it might not be. It might be like they're still trying to work out exactly what the 4-player aspects mean. Is it going to be like, that with a game like that, they probably don't want to commit to a gameplay formula unless they've got it like locked down, So it's interesting, but I think it's definitely possible. There was a rumor that Prey 2 might show up there. I don't know if you saw that.
I sent you that rumor, didn't I?
Oh, was it you? Oh, okay.
Yeah, and
Well,
you said you would go nuts if it basically happened, but
yeah,
you don't believe
that's
it.
that's the PG-13 version of what I said.
Essentially. Yeah, that was definitely the PG-13 version instead of the NC-17 version.
Yeah. So yeah, if Prey was there, I would go nuts. But it's the source was 4chan, so you know.
Yeah, sometimes 4chan's right, and sometimes they're just completely made up bull, right?
Yeah, sometimes.
Meat Puppet says, "Hey, how do you know that Xbox won't mess up a handheld? It's not like they have experience doing that, and that is an interesting thing, right? They've never done a handheld before, so could they essentially screw that up? And if they were serious about making it handheld, I would assume they would hire people who have experience making one.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe people need to go troll some LinkedIn profiles and see." If Microsoft's hired anybody recently with handheld experience, and then you can maybe, because I don't know, did you see that thing? That people were bringing up the LinkedIn profile of a producer, who's basically produced all these fighting games. Did you see that?
Oh no, I didn't. Tell me about that.
Geez, I have to find it now because I wasn't gonna include it in a topic, but let me see if I can find it. Because I saw it on Discord, in one of the Discords we're in, and I was like, "Oh, that's interesting." Oh yeah, so it's this guy, Aaron. I can't say his last name. Piper Peggergrees. Aaron. He's an executive producer at Microsoft, Xbox Game Studios Publishing, and his experience is he's executive producer at WB Games at NetherRealm Studios. And before that at Midway Games, and it seems like most of his LinkedIn is about like fighting game experience. And now he joined Xbox Global Publishing late last year, or actually no, last month. So he's been only working there 2 months. And with his LinkedIn profile of him working at NetherRealm for 8 years, you know, obviously there's the people that will say, well, they got him because they're just waiting for the acquisition of NetherRealm or what have you, right? But then also, you know, there's the idea of like, what if our buddy Special Nick is right? You know, he came out not that long ago and said, hey, Killer Instinct is a go at Xbox, and then said they do have a developer, because Phil Spencer had said months previously that they want to do Killer Instinct, but they just don't really have someone who's able to actually make the game. Like, he talked about that in a couple podcasts. He was on a couple interviews. But our buddy Special Nick over at Xbox Era said, like, no, it's in development now, and they have a developer. And you would presume that that would have to be done through Global Publishing, because I don't think it'd be a first-party game or first-party studio. So maybe this is the guy that's helping produce it. What do you think? Is that something that is realistic, looking at the job experience and putting maybe all that together? I don't know.
That makes sense. That makes sense. I think we might have to, you know, give Special Nick a pat on the back if that comes to fruition. If you know, it seems very specific hire if, you know, he does have all this experience in that genre. So I don't know. That's interesting.
Killer Instinct. You would love a new Killer Instinct, wouldn't you? I would. I know you really liked it, right?
I think, yeah, I did. I loved it a lot. It was sort of lacking that sort of, I don't know what you call it. It needed that little bit of extra spice to really go like fully, to really capture the audience. I think maybe like something more cinematic, like Mortal Kombat does with their single player, because the single player stuff in Killer Instinct was not great at launch. They did release that Shadow Lords mode afterwards, which was actually pretty cool. But I think by then it was too late, really, probably. But yeah, I'd love to see Killer Instinct come back, and I'd love to see it like become a big deal, especially like now that they've got all this cloud stuff to leverage potentially. Because it will be a bad look if Sony owns Evo and gets exclusivity on Street Fighter, and then Nintendo has Smash Brothers, And then what does Xbox have in that front? They have like no exclusive games. So I hope it does happen. And if it does, then shout out to Special Nick.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely want a new Killer Instinct to come back. But anyways, guys, do us a favor if you guys are here listening on this Saturday afternoon. Make sure you guys hit that like button and share this out. We'd greatly appreciate it. David Miller says when Seamus brought the idea of the original Xbox, many at Microsoft thought he was nuts. That is true. And we'll be seeing that 6-part documentary about the story of Xbox. I think that debuts on the 13th. I'm looking forward to checking it out.
Yeah, it sounds interesting.
Yeah. What else we got here? Robert says, Jez, do you all have a date that Windows Central Halo review is going to come out?
I do, but I don't know if I'm allowed to say, so you have to wait.
Probably not. But you can find the information. It's out there.
Oh,
just say the review will come before the game's officially out. So, the game launches on Wednesday. So, yeah.
God, is it that close already?
I know. It's only a few days away.
It feels like only yesterday. It was like Halloween.
I know, right? No, well, it feels like yesterday that it was essentially 2020, and now it's almost 2022. Where'd the time go?
Where did the time
go?
I blame you for this.
I know, right? King Ram says they are destroying the Wheel of Time. Last episode sucked.
Wow.
I mean,
Do you agree with that, Rand?
I don't think the last episode sucked. I don't know. There's a lot of people that like the episode, but I guess it depends on how much you want the books directly adapted, essentially.
It's funny, like you can't please everyone with the adaptations, I think, because like a lot of people are mad about Pokemon Diamond being a 1-to-1 direct remake. Like they completely just basically remade the Game Boy game exactly the same and barely changed anything. And people are upset about that. Like they actually wanted them to like change stuff. But then I remember when Nintendo released the Let's Go games, everyone was mad that they changed stuff. So, you can't please everyone.
No, you definitely can't please everybody. But I mean, I know a lot of book purists are mad at the show because there really hasn't been too many things lifted directly from the books, and they are kind of combining things and doing different things that might make people mad. I don't think last episode was the worst at all. But I mean, you're always, when you have this much passion for something that you wanted to see, on screen for years, and it deviates from the source material in pretty big ways in certain parts. Some people they hate that.
That's fair.
And, I'm one of those people that the show's the show and the books are the books. And I never expect direct adaptations for anything. Like, I love Lord of the Rings. I love Lord of the Rings as a book and Lord of the Rings as a movie, but, like, I'm perfectly okay with the changes that Peter Jackson did. And so far, I'm okay with how they're presenting certain things because there's a lot of things you need to tell the audience.
Lord of the Rings?
Yeah, of course. I read Lord of the Rings before I ever saw the movie.
God damn. Isn't that like 50 million hours long?
No, it's short. It's short. Definitely way shorter than Wheel of Time is.
Lord of the Rings is short. The book looked huge. It's like
no, it's short.
Fat.
I mean, it's no, it's not long whatsoever. Anyways,
okay.
But hardcore fans, sometimes they're hard to please and sometimes they're easy to please. Because there are going to be people that are like, I like it no matter what they do, no matter what they change, I like it. But then there's going to be other people that are like, I hate it no matter what. It's never going to be good enough, right? You sort of see that going on right now with Halo. There are just people that are just like, I hate it. What is wrong with all this XP and playlist stuff? And then the other set of people that like, I love it and whatever, like they don't have any criticisms, right? It's just like two camps of people that have nothing but criticisms, and then the other camp being like, it's perfect. So, I mean, I don't know. I currently like Wheel of Time TV show. Is it the greatest thing I've ever seen? Nope. Not by a long shot, but I am enjoying it, and I could definitely see why some people who love the books are disappointed in some aspects of it. But this is a video game podcast. Maybe I need to make a book podcast or something. I don't know. Connor,
if you do that, I'll start reading books and we can do a book podcast, man.
Yeah, nobody would watch it. Connor Smith says, "Hey guys, could we see Netflix and PlayStation team up? If so, what are your thoughts on Microsoft acquiring Warner Brothers Media? Microsoft gets ownership of the IPs. HBO could create exclusive series for Halo, Hellblade, etc. Keep up the amazing work. Thank you, Connor, for the support, man. Yeah, there was that rumor that Netflix and PlayStation would team up, but I question: does Netflix need PlayStation, or does PlayStation need Netflix in that regard?
Well, I think Netflix has shown no signs of complacency with regards to how it's growing its empire, so to speak, and they shouldn't, because there's loads of competition and they need to constantly pump out great content non-stop. Otherwise, that Disney Plus will just surge ahead. And I think one of the weaknesses Netflix potentially has is that it doesn't have a lot of in-house IP that it owns, that are sort of, I don't know, big worlds that can be expanded upon and stuff. Like they've done a great job of making new stuff, Squid Game and stuff like that, and they've done a great job at adapting some stuff, like The Witcher, for example. But then they put out tons of crap, like all the anime things they've tried to do, which have just all been absolutely garbage. So I think that works both ways. And I think a company as big as Netflix, they have one. You have to remember, Rand, they might be huge, but they only have one revenue stream. And that revenue stream could easily evaporate if they don't keep competing. And partnering up with PlayStation is a really great way of getting IP, recognizable IP, for things people are big fans of, instantly. So I think that's a partnership that works both ways.
Yeah, but where do you see
PlayStation? It's not like Disney Plus, where if Disney Plus died overnight, Disney would still be $1 billion corporation. But if Netflix failed, if Netflix had a bad year, they go straight into the red, because that's their only revenue stream.
So you're looking at this more of PlayStation putting TV shows of their IPs on Netflix, and not the rumored PlayStation Netflix gaming team up thing. You're thinking about it as...
Be both. It'd be both. I would have assumed it'd be both, because you were saying, does Netflix even need that? And I'm kind of well, yeah, they benefit from the IP, surely, to some degree at least.
Well, we already see Last of Us is on HBO, right? Yeah. So I mean, I think they'll just go to where they think they get the best deals from. And who knows if PlayStation will continue to even make, will we see a God of War TV show? Will we see an Uncharted TV show? I know they're making an Uncharted movie. Who knows? Yeah, who knows if Last of Us TV show is even going to be a success? And who knows? One of the things with Netflix is they like to own their own production. Whereas, would they really own it? How much would it cost for them to license it from PlayStation? Would that eat too much into, their profits for something? I don't know. I don't know how any of all that work. It would be a definitely interesting team up. And I didn't actually... I thought of it differently, but when you're talking about shows, that does kind of open things up, because you mentioned here, could Microsoft just acquire Warner Brothers Media, so Discovery, essentially?
I can't remember where I saw this, but someone, I think it was on Reddit, someone had just posted in the Windows subreddits a question did Microsoft make a mistake by not carrying on with their TV stuff? Because even Apple's getting into it now. You've got Apple making shows, Google's looking at it, Amazon obviously makes shows. So for the big tech companies, entertainment is something a lot of them are taking a bit more seriously now. And Microsoft's the only one that doesn't really have a sort of a play there. Yeah, they're doing the Halo show, but they do feel behind on a lot of aspects when it comes to entertainment. You know, they don't really do much with their IP in terms of transmedia. And, you know, Halo TV show has basically been in development hell, which is weird to say for about a TV show, but it is what it is. But yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting discussion to make, but Microsoft, surely it wouldn't be a good idea for Microsoft to like try and do it themselves. It'd be much better for them to actually buy their way into it. And buying a company like Warner Brothers is an obvious one, I think.
This is another thing where Microsoft was just too early to something. Like, you look at the launch of the Xbox One, which you always go back to. You look at Kinect, right, and how nobody wanted it tied to the system, but then all of a sudden, years later, people have essentially a listening device from Google or Amazon in their house, like it's no big deal, right? Yeah. So it's like, oh, Microsoft was too early here. And then you look, they were trying to do the entertainment thing. The Halo TV show, the Quantum Break stuff, and well, I mean, it took forever for the Halo show to come out, but you are right in the sense that, like, you know, Apple's into the TV stuff, Amazon's into Prime with their video stuff. They just bought MGM. PlayStation seems now to be getting more into, you know, cross-media stuff with TV shows based on their properties. It once again seems that Microsoft was just, they had the vision of what the future could be, but they tried changing it too quickly or tried biting off more than they can chew. And now you have a subscription service and it's just like, and it's working, but could it do even better if you also offered, like if Xbox Game Pass also included the Halo TV show, where it was an episode every week, but then once that was over, you had, you know, the Fallout TV show, right? Is there a missed opportunity there to not have something like that? TV shows based off the gaming properties in a subscription service. And I think we've talked about this before, about like Discovery, where instead of Microsoft just buying Warner Brothers games, which we know they were interested in before the sale to Discovery, you know, like, what if that thing goes through and Microsoft's like, instead of it being an Xbox move, Microsoft's like, we need to get in on this. You know, Amazon's buying MGM, so they decide to buy all of Discovery, and that's something that they do as like a Microsoft initiative. I think that's maybe, I don't know, that'd be a lot of money, but it's something to really think about, you know, the future of entertainment and subscription services.
I'm increasingly thinking they should have done it. Done it.
They almost bought Discord, even though Discord it looked like never really was interested in being bought out by Microsoft. They just used Microsoft to increase their valuation. Microsoft was dead serious about buying them. So like they need, like, I think Jeff Grubbs talked about this all the time, like inflation. They got all this money sitting in banks, but with inflation, it's losing value. So you basically need to spend it. It's like, what do you spend it on? You know, so it's like, maybe they should. Maybe Game Pass 10 years from now not only has games in it, but movies based on, you know, series of games that you do own. Even though I think aren't they doing a Fallout show for Netflix or Prime or something? Wasn't that the thing? Or like an Elder Scrolls show or something?
Rings a bell.
Something along those lines. Yeah, I don't know. It's really interesting. David Miller says, imagine a monitor and TV and a game system all in one. Monitor and a game system all in one, huh? Gunstar says, the problem with streaming handheld is that I couldn't use it in the scenarios I would want to, i.e. flights and trains, which all have crap Wi-Fi.
Yeah. That's the only place that I'd want to use it, is on a plane, really.
Yeah.
If I'm out of the house, it's probably a family event. If I have my own TV, I don't have any kids, so I don't have to fight for anyone for access to the TV generally. So
that's where local comes in handy.
Yeah.
So Nightwolf says, well, I'll see Rand's point. I do prefer a streaming device, so I'm not draining my phone all the time, but we will see what happens. Enjoying the show, fellas.
That is also a good point. That like Android gaming uses a hell of a lot of battery, and you don't generally it doesn't last very long. So that is an interesting point too. I didn't really consider that much.
Saja Caesar says Mixer really wasn't killed quickly. I think it was. I used to talk to people.
2 years, right? 3 years?
I mean, they killed it a hell of a lot more quickly than I thought they did. Artemis says Rand keeps on twisting the knife on Mixer.
Yeah.
And it's just like...
I know you didn't like Mixer. I like Mixer, man. The community in Mixer was just so good. Like, that's the main thing that I miss, is the community. Like, Twitch is Twitch, and YouTube is just so big. It's hard to sort of get noticed easily on there. But like, I don't know. It's fun to think about what they could have done if it didn't flop.
Oh, it flopped hard. I remember when they got Ninja and everyone's like, "This is it," and then Ninja didn't do anything. And then they got Shroud.
Yeah.
Like, the only thing that they should... I mean, obviously looking back is 2020 hindsight, but they needed to make a play for legit all the top people and bring them all over at once. Like, they needed to get Ninja and Shroud and Tim and Doc and all the top guys, like, you know, Pokimane, and bring them all over, like, within months of each other.
They wouldn't have done Pokimane ever because brand safety.
Yeah, maybe.
That's another thing about Mixer. Like, the community was really good, but some of the biggest drivers of revenue on Twitch are those brand unsafe creators like Dr. Disrespect and Pokimane. People who are like a little bit edgy, maybe push the rules a little bit far, you know? Microsoft wouldn't have had anything to do with that. They like everything to be super family friendly, no, you know, censored and safe. And I don't think you can grow a streaming platform that is totally safe. I think there has to be a bit of edge to it. Mixer had no edge. It made it great platform to be on as a creator, but not so much probably pulling in all the viewers, I guess. And the simps, no simps on Mixer really.
Man, Smelly Wrestling Geek says Microsoft would probably be better off partnering with Steam and getting Game Pass put on the Steam Deck. I mean, yeah, a lot of people would say the same. Because, like, why build your own when you can just, you know, it's a local device. You already put all your games natively on Steam, so it's like all that stuff's already there. You might as well put Game Pass there and make a deal of some kind.
Truth.
Yeah. Let's see. David says, you should speak with me. I was there when it all started. Rode bikes with the Bungie VP in Bellevue. Okay. Let's see what else we got here. Jason says, I feel like Xbox Handheld will just be a cheap Surface, which I admit are great quality.
The Surface Go 3, I think it went down to like $300 during Black Friday, or Go 2 or something. Yeah, the technology there is the issue. Like, do you make it native? Do you make streaming? I don't know.
David says, well, there's an NDA. For instance, I put magnets underground for the military, but I have 5 NDAs. Oh, man, people are breaking NDAs in the chat. I don't know what I'm going to do here. Andy says, evening, Rand and Jez. Have you seen Narcos on Netflix? I highly recommend it. I watched the original Narcos series, the first 3 seasons. I've not watched anything from Narcos Mexico yet, even though it's on my list to watch. And you also said Resident Evil was decent on Netflix. So
I still haven't seen The Sopranos either. That's another one I really want to watch.
Yeah. Jason says, hey, Rand and Jez, love the show. Keep up the awesome work. Thank you. Anybody in the chat who's saying that they love the show, we really appreciate everybody. It's really hard to get to everything. For those of you in the chat asking about what are mine and Jez's thoughts on Halo, we can't talk about that. Outside of the fact that I from my preview, I felt it was the most fun I've had playing a Halo campaign in a long time. As for what we feel about the story, we can't talk about that. I don't know how many times we got to say that. You have to wait till next week, essentially. to find out
NBA, baby.
found out more about everything. But yeah, I mean, you can just go watch my preview. Go read the article that Jez wrote. Jose says you haven't said which game capture this is. It's it's Doom Eternal. But yeah, so Jez, we have the Game Awards coming up, so I figure we'll talk a little bit about this. What about Xbox games we expect to be there? But first, let's talk about Activision and the Game Awards and Jeff Keighley last night. What do you think?
Yeah. So, I mean, do you want to drop the context? What exactly was the news here with Jeff and the game?
Last night, it came out that basically said that the Game Awards wouldn't be taking a stance on the whole Activision stuff. And that led to a lot of people being like, screw this. I'm not even going to go to the show. I'm not even going to watch the show. How could Jeff do this considering he threw Konami under the bus simply about Kojima? Remember him crying on stage about Kojima, and that's just one person. And here you have this whole situation with all these different allegations toward Activision, and it's like, nope, sweep it under the rug. Not going to talk about it. People were like, "Oh, I wonder why." And I think one of the Activision presidents is on the board of directors or whatever it is for the Game Awards.
They call it their advisory board.
The advisory board, yes. Yeah. And then Jeff came out and put out his own personal tweets, basically saying that, outside of, let me see if I can bring up his tweets. Outside of their nominations, that Activision Blizzard won't be a part of this year's Game Awards. And so what do you how do you think he handled it, and what do you think about the whole situation? Because I know you're not a fan of Activision. I know you're Bobby Kotick's #1 fan here on social media. Do you think they're handling it the right way? Should they have done more? I mean, what's your thoughts on it?
I think the issue here, more than anything, is consistency. Like, you mentioned the fact that Jeff, went to bat for Kojima about the whole Konami situation and the way, like, Konami had treated the devs there. But what about the way the devs have been treated at Activision? And then it sort of casts a light on the fact that, Jeff Keighley did that because Kojima is his personal friend, right? And now it's another interesting thing to note that Kojima is on the advisory board for the Game Awards too.
Yes, he is.
So Kojima and Activision are on the advisory board for the Game Awards. And, we got all this drama about Konami being so evil, and poor Kojima at the Game Awards. And now that it comes to an opportunity for Jeff Keighley to be consistent, he's chosen not to be consistent. He's chosen to be like, oh, well, we'll forget about all that. We'll forget about it. The headlines were a bit clickbaity, though. If you actually read what he said, we want to give devs the chance to showcase their games and stuff like that. And I think that's fair enough. But I think you can do that while also calling into question the role that the executive board played in why Activision is such a shit show right now. And it is a shit show. There's no way to beat around the bush. I'm not beholden to Activision, so I can call them a shit show. I can call the Activision board of directors a bunch of assholes, and I can say they're all scum, and I can say they should all lose their jobs, and I should say all kinds of nasty things about them. But I'm not beholden to them because Activision is not on Windows Central's board of directors. I can say whatever I want. So it does feel like Jeff was sort of, towing a line there a little bit, in my view. But at the same time, I kind of appreciate the fact that sometimes you do have to remember that there are thousands of employees of Activision Blizzard. Most of them are being screwed over by Activision Blizzard. And if there was other news about Activision Blizzard screwing over people, announcing to loads of QA staff at Raven Software, after being promised for months about pay rises, Activision decided to notify a load of QA testers that they will be being made redundant after Christmas, just a few weeks before Christmas. Isn't Bobby Kotick a lovely gentleman, Rand? Isn't he a nice boy? Our boy Bobby. Doesn't he totally deserve his job and his reputation and all the things he's got on the backs of all the people he screws over, you know? But anyway, if I was Jeff Keighley and Activision was on my board of directors, maybe I'd feel similarly in the sense that, I can't be too mean about Activision because they're on my advisory board. But then again, you know, maybe you should be consistent then, and maybe you shouldn't call out Konami if you want to play that line. Oh, we don't get involved in industry politics. Maybe don't call out Konami on stage. Maybe don't make the show all political, and maybe don't try and take the easy road, because right now, that's exactly what's happening. He's taken the easy way out of a potentially nasty conversation with Activision, who are on the board of the advisory board. We have no idea to what extent Activision's capacity for influence is while on the advisory board, but in my view, it's a bit ethically questionable, frankly, that you've got an awards show that's supposedly impartial, yet you also have Konami on the advisory board. Death Stranding won a bunch of awards, and Kojima would have been very privy to the way the whole system works with regards to how best to get an award on the show, i.e. make sure every single member of the jury has access to the game. A lot of people don't know that. A lot of indie devs won't know that. They won't know how the system works. To me, it's just again, it just sort of casts the impartiality of the awards into question in general. You know, it's fine if they want to be in a position where they don't get involved in industry politics, fine, don't do it. But at least be consistent. You call out Konami for their bullshit. You should call out Activision for their bullshit. You have to choose what kind of person you want to be in this industry. You know, if you're just navigating around it to see how much money you can make, people are going to call you out on it. People are going to notice. And sure as hell, people have noticed looking at Jeff's replies and looking at the criticism leverage his way. And I appreciate the fact, you know, I appreciate that what he's doing is hard. You know, making an award show is super hard. And all the stuff he's done is super hard. And I do think it's quite cool that he's given us like an award show, an E3 type event in the winter. I think it's cool because there's never really been something like that on this level. At least since I've been covering gaming. I know there have been other events in the past, like XO, for example. RIP. but you know, I appreciate what he's doing. He's hard, but it just strikes me as odd, and it sort of calls into question a lot of things. Increasingly, I don't watch the Game Awards for the awards. I just watch them for the trailers, and I think most people do that too. Like, it just doesn't feel like there's any integrity in the awards whatsoever, you know? I don't know.
Yeah, it would have been nice for him to take a stand on stage talking about how this isn't something that should go on at all. But like you said, you know, he probably can't. One, because of who's on the advisory board. I mean, he never said anything about Ubisoft and all their problems, and you want to know why? Because Gizmo, whatever his name is also on the advisory board. You know, he can't bite the hand that feeds, essentially. Yeah. And yeah, like you said, it comes down to consistency. It's like you can't cry about Kojima and the treatment he got from Konami and then not basically say anything about everything that's gone on at Activision. It kind of makes you look like a hypocrite.
He made a mistake. He made a big mistake by coming out so angrily and support Kojima. He made a mistake. He should have had the forethought to think, oh God, I won't be able to do this when Activision or Ubisoft shit the bed. You know, he should have thought about that ahead of time, but he didn't think about it ahead of time because Kojima is his close personal friend, and he wasn't being impartial. You know, It's fine if you wanna take the apolitical stance, but then you have to, be apolitical and not just speak up when it's things that concern you personally. And increasingly, it looks like this is all just a platform for Jeff to make money and to showcase himself. He spoke up about Konami because he cared about it, because it affected him personally. And if that's what the show is, Jeff's personal show, then fine. But just admit that. Don't try and pretend you're trying to create an award show that's impartial while also not being impartial. Okay? Consistency, baby. That's all, that's what I was taught as a kid, be consistent. Don't be a hypocrite.
Yeah. Well, I mean, people realize that, so it's like they're definitely calling him out on it. And the whole thing of like they won't be present outside of their nominations, like, well, I don't know. It's like most companies aren't. You know what I mean? Unless he means that like there's like think about it. Activision Blizzard, they don't really make any games outside of Call of Duty anyways. So, like, you wouldn't expect anything from Activision Blizzard to be at the Game Awards. Well, I mean, I guess, like, Overwatch 2 or Diablo could have been there or something, but their presence is usually very small anyways, simply because of the type of games they make year in, year out. So, like, usually they're not really there. So, like, it's no different than any other year. It's like, well, they got their nominations and that's it. Like, I don't know. It kind of just feels like... And this is coming from somebody who likes Jeff, who likes the Game Awards, who likes what he's doing for the industry. But it definitely I just look at him and be like, bro, like, you came out there so strongly for your man, Kojima, and now when, like, more people need, you to stand up for him, and you're just going to be like, listen, I can't, I want to, but I can't. And just sweep it under the rug. It's just it's a horrible look. It's a horrible look, and I don't know. I mean, you kind of get this. I mean, that's the thing. Like, if you never came out there and on behalf of Kojima, nobody would say anything. In fact, when you did come out for Kojima, everybody kind of laughed at you because it was like, huh? You remember? Cause he was like basically like crying, on stage. Like, man, he loves the dude, which, hey, bromances are all fine by me. I'm all for bromances. I got a bromance with Jez, But, oh, man, Jeff, what have you done? What have you done this time? It's kind of funny. It's kind of sad also, honestly, because the Game Awards would have been a great time to, like, come out and condemn the actions at Ubisoft and say we should do better, but instead you're just going to be silent because the dude's on your advisory board. So, oh well. Yeah. We don't bite the hand that feeds you, right, Jeff? Jacqueline says, hey, is there any scenario where Xbox can give up the publishing rights to Sunset Overdrive to Sony in exchange for the Heavenly Sword IP? I would love for teams to get their toys back.
Didn't they already give up the rights to Sunset Overdrive?
Publishing rights, the IP was owned by Insomniac, right. So that went with the deal. Now the question is, does Sony own the publishing rights to Sunset Overdrive? Does Microsoft still own the publishing rights to that game? Is there a time limit on the publishing rights? I don't know, but usually you don't see IPs exchanged. I don't think Microsoft would care to have Heavenly Sword, and I still don't think Sony's going to do anything with Sunset Overdrive, personally. I mean, can you see Sony doing a Sunset Overdrive sequel? It's like, they really, I don't know, they got Ratchet and Clank, and they got Spider-Man, and they got Wolverine. It kind of seems to me as more like why go after Sunset Overdrive, which a game that sort of failed, when you have bigger things you can pursue, right?
Yeah.
Like who wouldn't? I don't know. Like the idea, like, well, we could do Sunset Overdrive 2, or we could do Wolverine. It's like you're choosing Wolverine every day, all day. Like there'd never be a scenario where you'd choose Sunset Overdrive over it. But I guess at some point, if they ever do release a remaster of Sunset Overdrive for the PlayStation, then maybe you can think, at some point we'll get a Sunset Overdrive 2. But if they never put Sunset Overdrive on the PS5, then there's probably no way they'll ever think about doing a sequel.
Yeah, it would be cool to see, but I don't think it'll happen. There's just not enough. There's not enough like interest in it. The core community remembers Sunset Overdrive and with some degree of fondness for what it was, but my average person probably doesn't even know it exists. Truth be told.
Our buddy Sin Vendetta says, "Hey Jez, just wanted to let you know I appreciate your new ongoing obsession for Dark Souls. So happy to know that you're one of us now. I knew it was only a matter of time before Sin, Mr. Dark Souls himself, would come in here and say something. I was waiting for him to say something about the whole Dark Souls thing, because he's the dude when it comes to these Dark Souls games."
Yeah, he's been like at me and stuff. Like Sin Vendetta is a cool dude. Is Sin Vendetta is another guy from the old Mixer days as well. And used to watch me and Roby stream back in the day. I appreciate you, brother.
Andy Hart says, "I definitely won't be watching the Game Awards now. What a disgusting stance to take. A very bad move." I'm sure some people will definitely have that same feelings. Let's see here. What else we got here? Wolf Assassin says, "Hey guys, just saying hi and asking everyone in chat and what they wanted to see at the Game Awards. Got to keep Reddit happy, am I right? Lol." RDX Son of Fett says, "No Xbox mini fridge in Canada yet." Yeah, most of the things when it comes to Xbox are always US related. I don't know if the fridge is coming to Canada maybe in the future, or maybe it was next year and it was coming to US this year. I'm not getting the mini fridge. I don't need one, and I don't know where I would put it. And it's kind of just it would be $100 I would just waste essentially. So
yeah, I was like, I want it, but I also like can't really justify it at the same time.
Yeah, it's just like, at least with the controller, at some point I'll wore down the controller I'm using and I can use another controller. But with the mini fridge, it's just kind of just like I have no use for it. But a lot of other people I know do, and I know Colt is using his as like for backdrop for his videos or whatever, so he can be like, "Hey guys, look at this cool mini fridge. It's Xbox, and I'm Colt Eastwood." You know. Neon Black says, happy to see this Activision Keighley thing causing controversy. Activision employees deserve so much better. Great to hear you two talk about it. Well, yeah, we had to talk about it because, the Game Awards are a thing, and it was kind of, I don't know, it's especially considering Jeff's own past and how he reacted to some of the other things where it's like, oh, so you're going to come out and talk about Kojima that way, but not about, Activision this way. So yeah, it's just it's pretty bad. But staying with the Game Awards, what can we expect from Xbox, Jez? I think Sarah Bond's going to be there. I don't know anybody. I mean, there might be more people from Xbox being there. You had mentioned earlier in the year that Hellblade 2 is going to be there, which basically Jeff Grubb said earlier this week that was going to be the case. He also said that Avowed is most likely going to be there, which we had talked about saying as a possibility, because I believe Obsidian said we would see it this year, and we haven't. Even though you've seen the gameplay video, you talked about it. You actually showed me the gameplay video, so I as well have seen Avowed. So those two things are there. What else are you expecting from Xbox, I guess? Is there anything more? Does that Keighley tweet to In Exile with the eye emojis mean something more? Are we going to see Project Cobalt as well?
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, I have no inside information about what's going to be shown at the Game Awards. I just want to put that out there. Save for Hellblade, by the way. And that was more like extrapolating on something else. I didn't hear that Avowed was going to be there, so that's interesting. The gameplay I saw of Avowed was like, it was
early?
I don't know.
Wait,
it was early.
Yeah.
It was early. I wouldn't say it was rough, but it wasn't like something I would have expected to see at E3. Like, there were textures not implemented in lighting and stuff. It wasn't meant to be shown to the public. But presumably they've got a small slice of the game somewhere that is like ready for prime time, and that's going to be cool to see if they put it up on stage. Beyond that, though, I have literally no idea. I think someone in chat mentioned Redfall, and to me it does make sense, like to show off Redfall there if it's coming next year. But maybe you save Redfall for E3 if it's like here's Redfall, and by the way, it's out later this summer, maybe. I don't know. So maybe they could go down that route with it. I'm not sure. I really don't know what to expect. With regards to like Project Cobalt, I don't know if Jeff's tweet means anything on that capacity, but interestingly, someone DM'd me and they asked me about the possibility of Persona being there.
Mm-hmm.
And I was kind of like, nah, I doubt they'd show Persona there for Xbox because that's more like Microsoft news. Maybe they keep that for E3. But then that person was like, well, they showed off Yakuza, the Yakuza franchise coming to Game Pass last year at the Game Awards. And I was like, oh, I didn't know that, because I don't know if you know this, Rand, but I generally don't watch the Game Awards because it's on at 3 a.m. in the UK.
Yes.
So I never really see it. And then like after the fact, I don't really care to watch it. I just watch the trailers. I don't want to see the Jeff Keighley show. I just want to, give me the trailers. But so yeah, I didn't realize they'd shown off Yakuza at E3 before, at the Game Awards before. So if they are using it as a mini E3 news drop show, maybe they could show.
Well, it's because they did like a trailer for like Game Pass, upcoming Game Pass stuff, and Yakuza was there. So like, just judging from what Jeff said, Hellblade 2 and Avowed, right? And I would also imagine there also being a Game Pass commercial of some sort, whether it's an actual commercial or whether it's actually within the show. I think those are pretty good. Now, Xbox has a lot of things undercover. Like, they have a lot of stuff they haven't talked about. They have a lot of stuff they haven't shown. I think Jeff's tweet to In Exile is interesting because I think it... I don't know, like, I sort of feel like he wouldn't do that unless he's teasing a reveal at a show, right? And outside of, and In Exile, we know they're doing a new project, but it's secret, as they say on their own Twitter, even though you've revealed details of it. There very well could be like, let's just show off a CGI thing for Project Cobalt and give it a name. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And interestingly enough, they added a Wasteland 3 dynamic theme to the Series X and S, which is odd. And maybe I'm reading too much into it, but it feels like Wasteland 3 of all things you're adding? I don't know.
What do you mean?
Well, because number one, they don't own Wasteland 3, right? Or at least Wasteland's published by Deep Silver, correct?
Yes. But they do own the Wasteland IP.
They do own the Wasteland IP now. I just feel like what out of all the out of all the dynamic backgrounds you could do, out of all the games that you own, all the games that have come out, from the Oris to the Grounded, from Avowed or Outer Worlds to Gear, like Forza, all of these things. You add like Wasteland 3, which is probably the least talked about one, and I just kind of look at it, I'm like, that's interesting timing. I don't know. And then all of a sudden they change their logo. I don't know if that's more of a community manager to include like the Xbox X in their logo. And Jeff Keighley, does the eye thing, and it's just like, well, the Game Awards are coming up. It's like, maybe it's possible they do some sort of drop some. I don't know. I don't know if I'm like reading too much into it, or I'm just saying that dynamic background thing was just odd. It was just so odd.
I don't know. I think probably dynamic background being there probably doesn't mean much. In Exile probably made that themselves, and they're just like, you know what? Here you go. We've done it. Maybe it's part of a community manager sort of thing, because it is just literally a PNG with some animation on it. It's not a huge amount of effort to put
Well,
a
no, and
dynamic
so were the
background
two
on.
Halo things, but
I don't read much into that the whole Wasteland, because like it's specifically, not only is it like specifically Wasteland 3, but it's also specifically the DLC for Wasteland 3, the cult of the I can't remember what it's called exactly, cult of the holy detonation, I think it's called. It's like a DLC expansion cult worshipping an unexploded nuke or something. I haven't actually played that one yet, and I've been meaning to get around to it, but you know, that's another discussion. But you know, I don't. Here's why I don't think that means anything: is because as well as that, Rand, they also have a lot of Wasteland 3 merchandise on the Xbox Gear Shop, but not much merchandise for some of the other like smaller studios they have. It just makes me think that they have like a community manager there who's making more of an effort to put gear and merchandise on the store and to make a dynamic background and stuff like that. I just think that's an InXL thing. I don't think that's they're gonna show off Project Cobalt thing. But at the same time, I can totally see like a CGI trailer for Project Cobalt, and they give it a name. They show off that it's like Cobalt's like it's a RPG FPS set in Victorian steampunk era, steampunk robots and blimps and mechs and all kinds of weird stuff. So it could happen. CGI trailer, that's game reveal, and then show gameplay at E3 maybe. That could work.
so
But
what do you expect from Hellblade? Do you expect another CGI thing? Do you expect a gameplay segment? Like, what are your expectations for it?
Well, I'd be surprised if they go with CGI again, because, well, they did say that trailer was in engine, didn't they?
Yeah, they did say it was in engine, but like, I guess the question is it like going to be a story trailer where it's basically made up of cutscenes, or are we actually going to see how the game plays like? I guess.
I think like maybe they'll save gameplay for closer to launch, maybe, because gameplay often has like systems that aren't finished, like do they want to implement this UI system? Is this gameplay feature going to be removed? That kind of thing. There's a lot of anxiety about what you show about a game these days, because people these days are kind of like, oh my god, downgrade, or oh my god, they promised this feature and it's not there or something, because things change a lot during development. Like whole features could be removed. They could just decide, you know what, this blocking mechanic doesn't work, so it hurts the flow of the game or something, so let's just remove it completely. But then you'll get people like, oh, they removed this blocking mechanic. Oh my god, look, they showed this off at the Game Awards and it's not there anymore. That means the game's been downgraded, man. And so they are nervous about what they show. Until it's like totally locked down, I don't expect to see gameplay, these days. The way people react to things. I remember Watch Dogs Legion, not Legion, just Watch Dogs or whatever. But it depends how close it is, really. If they are really happy with the gameplay, then yeah, we could see full blown gameplay. But I think it's more likely to be like a story with implied hints about how it's going to play, vague hints, because then it's sort of a bit non-committal if things change, but at the same time, it gives us a lot to think about and sort of get hyped about. I've heard, Rand, that Ninja Theory have hinted at this themselves, that they're laser scanning Iceland, the entirety of Iceland, and I've heard Hellblade 2 described internally as an 1,000-mile trek across medieval Iceland. Now, in my view, you don't really need a 1,000-mile trek if it's going to be like Hellblade 1, like a sort of linear experience.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that sounds like a much bigger game in scope, with a lot more stuff to do and a lot more impressive. But just how much we're going to see of that, I have no idea. I think it'll be a sort of cryptic trailer like the last one, I think. Maybe with some actual gameplay thrown in there. Maybe we'll see like Senua going toe-to-toe with some enemies without a UI, maybe. Maybe we'll see some elements of that. and it will give us some hints about things you can do in the game. Maybe they'll show like a very brief glimpse at talking to an NPC or something. But I don't think we'll get a deep dive until things are totally locked down and it's nearer to launch. Similarly to what they're doing with Starfield, really. They're not really giving us that much about Starfield right now.
They're actually talking more about Starfield than most of the other games come from Xbox. Like, they talked about it more about Starfield than they talked about Halo in the like a year out. You know, you have a video of Todd Howard sitting down with two people talking about, Starfield and showing off concept art. Like, how often do you see an Xbox studio sit off in a round table and talk about what they wanted, their vision for the game while showing off concept art? It's not something Xbox does. But this is Bethesda, and as we know, Bethesda sort of operates independently. Like, sure, they're under the umbrella of Xbox and Microsoft, but they sort of do their own thing. So this is the other question I have for you. Like, Hellblade 2 and Avowed seem like pretty good bets. Something about Game Pass will be there. Who knows if they'll announce, like, essentially, like you said, Persona coming to Xbox or whatever. Like, I don't think so, but it would be cool to see. Bethesda normally operates also, they make their own deals regarding this stuff. Could we see something from Bethesda at the Game Awards? Like Redfall, Starfield are coming next year. But do we think we see anything from either of them? I think we both said no for Redfall. But Starfield's one of the biggest releases of next year. Do we think we get a Starfield trailer from Bethesda at the Game Awards? Or are they going to wait until a combined Xbox Bethesda showcase for E3 next year?
I want to say, off the top of my head, that Todd's already confirmed that they won't show Starfield until E3, but in some interview. But I'm not sure about that. If I've just imagined that or dreamed it, then I guess not.
I think he might have said that, but I don't know if he meant it more as in like, we'll show off the gameplay and a long thing. This is where we would do it. Or because they kind of gave the teaser trailer with a little hint of stuff, but I don't know, like this is I guess the other thing is like, why are we talking about games releasing in 2023, like instead of the games coming next year? Is the Game Awards a good place to talk about future content and not content coming immediately, I guess? Is that why? Where it's like, it's okay to talk about a game that's 2 years away and start getting the hype train up for it. Like, what's that game from the Callisto project? Like, it does sometimes seem that a lot of the trailers or world exclusives in the Game Awards are for games that are like usually 2 years away almost. Do they have some sort of data that suggests that this is a good way to maybe start a campaign for something that is years away instead of something that is coming soon?
It's hard to say without the detail. It's interesting to speculate about. There's also that vague Prey 2 rumor from 4chan about Prey 2 being there, set in the Arctic, I think. Oh no, that was BioShock. Oh, there's also a BioShock leak. BioShock 4 set in the Arctic.
Yeah, we've known BioShock 4 is a thing for a bit, but yeah, BioShock 4 is set in the Arctic. Yeah. I don't know, like do we see Indiana Jones? Is Bethesda going to be there at all in any presence,
I think they'll want to have a presence there. It's sort of an opportunity for, devs to remind the world that they exist and they're working and stuff, I guess. But
so this is what I was thinking about the Wasteland or with an Exile. Last year, Microsoft revealed Perfect Dark, right?
Yes.
Which we had heard was originally supposed to be at E3, and then they kind of saved it. But also one of the reasons they revealed it was because of work recruitment. Now, what if In Exile is like wants the same, where you announce the project, you don't got to be vague about it, and now you can hire more and more people for that. Could that be a reason to actually kind of to announce it?
That's a good point.
It was just something I was thinking about.
That could be it. Also, the fact that some asshole legit leaked it. So you know, it's if it's out there anyway, you might as well, have Blur Studio put together a concept video for it and stuff. I don't know.
Yeah. I put up a poll so far. What will Hellblade 2 show at the Game Awards? 25% say gameplay, 21% say story cutscenes, and 53% say a mix of both. So, our buddy Everborn Saga says, "What's up, fellas? That new Wheel Time episode is the first one I actually liked. Yeah, me and him have been going back and forth in the DMs about Wheel of Time. We're both huge fans. He doesn't like it or hasn't liked it, even though I think he said his wife loves it, because they're not dirty enough. That's his criticism to me every single time. He's like, they're not dirty enough. They're on the road and they're so clean. And I'm just like, oh my God, Everborn, what are you talking about? And then I knew he liked this episode because Rand and Matt showed up in the Tarvalon, dirty as all hell. And I thought to myself while watching, I'm like, Everborn's gonna love this because they're dirty and they're not super clean.
It's funny because I made that criticism about something else. What was it now? I used Final Fantasy 13. I remember I played Final Fantasy 13 for the first time, and it's like at the start of the game, it's like the middle of a war's going on. I was just like, man, they're all just so clean, and they've got really stylish hair and all this stuff. Despite the fact there's this huge war going on, they've got iron clothes and they've got perfectly styled hair, and there's just something weird about this fact. So it's sucking the drama out for me because they're all so clean. So I feel that. That.
Flame says, just a friendly reminder to buy and try Chorus. Yes, Chorus is out. Have you heard anything about it, Jez?
I have the game actually. Oh. And I was meant to write about it, but it's another one of them. What time do I have? I had planned to, but just didn't have the time lately. I haven't played it yet. I intend to do so. But I sort of got sucked into Dark Souls now. So.
Yeah, I wonder. I haven't really checked out the reviews of the game. I wonder if it's reviewing well.
Yeah.
Keyshawn,
I think this is the problem, because it's on Game Pass, right, Chorus?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
In fact, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's not.
But it was announced on the Xbox stage, right?
It was originally at that first May showing back last year. Yes.
Yeah. It looked pretty cool.
Yeah, it looks cool. I just wonder if it's any good. Keyshawn Thompson, thank you for becoming the newest member of the channel. Appreciate it. Enjoy the emotes. And let's see what else we got here. Brap Enrique goes, hey, Rand and Jez. Some influencers speaking out against Keeley not speaking on the controversy. He goes, hey, Rand and Jez. Some influencers are speaking out against Keeley not speaking out on the controversy at Activision. Should he denounce this?
You mean denounce Activision or denounce the influencers? I'm of the opinion that people can get involved with whatever they want. If you want to be super involved with politics, fine, But I think the problem with this situation is just the consistency. He got involved in industry drama, but for his bro, using his platform to get involved with industry drama for that purpose, and that sort of puts him in a position where it's if you're going to do that once and use your platform that way, and it wasn't a short brief thing, it was a huge monologue. So it's just the consistency for me. I also don't begrudge people who don't want to get involved in it because it's exhausting. I used to tweet a fair bit about politics, but now I don't because I'm just fed up of it. I think all politicians are scum, and I don't care about any of them.
I guess one of the things Brap is saying is that some people are speaking out against Keeley, but maybe not speaking out against Activision. Some influencers are speaking out against Keeley, not speaking out on the... Okay, so he's saying that people are speaking out against Keeley because he's not speaking out of the controversy of Activision. I mean, we talked about it earlier. Me and Jez both kind of believe he should, but he's not because Activision's part of the board. So I think his hands are tied. and it just looks bad because of how he railed for Kojima all those years ago. So yeah, people remember that, and they're gonna call him out on it. Kid Smooth has a good question, Jez. He says, "Wouldn't Josh Sawyer's game make it since it's due next year?"
I think Pentiment is like, I don't know if it's like something you put on a big stage, maybe.
Yeah, I was thinking.
But I honestly don't know.
Thing. I was thinking the same thing. Like, I don't think that's a game that you put at the Game Awards, to be honest with you.
But it's like, you should think of Pentiment like an indie game. That's how they're thinking of it internally. They call it an indie game. So it's like a passion project, a bit.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I could be wrong. Maybe they'll show a trailer for it or something.
I don't know. I don't expect them to show anything from Pentiment. I could be wrong. Like, I think Hellblade 2 and Avowed are two games that people want to see, especially Hellblade 2. But then it's just like, man, those games, at least to us, are still 2 years away, 2023.
Yeah.
It's like, would it be better to not have Redfall and Starfield because they're both next year, or Forza Motorsport? But like we said, maybe it's just how timing and how everything works out, and Project Cobalt could be there because they want to hire more people, like they did with Perfect Dark. I don't know if you saw Klobrel's. He had a timeline of when he thinks games from Xbox will release, and he put Perfect Dark ahead of Hellblade 2.
Yeah, I don't know if I agree with that, but could be wrong. Maybe Klobrel's privy to some information I don't have. But I would have thought Hellblade had come out before Perfect Dark, personally. But
I wonder how the development's going with Crystal Dynamics on it now.
Yeah, I mean, that whole situation is kind of like, how is that even going to work from an integration perspective?
And
it's going to be really interesting to see what kind of state Perfect Dark comes out in, given like the different teams working on it. You've got the Initiative. They're a new studio, never made a game before. And they've seen a bit of churn among their like executive level, so it kind of makes you wonder, like, does it sort of, and then they'll be working with another studio, and Daryl Gallagher's worked with Crystal Dynamics before and knows how they work and stuff. So will that help the game, or will that complicate things? It's interesting to think about. It could go either way, I think.
Yeah. Let's see here. What else we got? Gaming Forte says, "Hey Rand, I need a friend to reinforce my belief. My Michigan Wolverines won the." And he doesn't finish off what he's saying. What do they win, Forte? I don't follow college football at all. So, Andy Hart says, "I seriously think Xbox should not attend the Game Awards after Jeff's statement. That would send a message to Activision." Yeah. Xbox and PlayStation, Nintendo all wrote emails basically condemning Activision and that they're not doing enough. Would that send a message if Xbox decided not to attend the Game Awards or not have anything in the Game Awards? That is... I guess the question is that the right venue to talk about that? Like, would people know that Xbox isn't attending because of Activision? I don't know. I almost kind of feel like Xbox not attending or PlayStation not attending to sort of send a message to Activision, like the Game Awards isn't the best place to do that for those two companies. But I don't know. Another question, Jez. Final Fantasy VII Remake. Do you think that gets announced for Xbox? People asking about that.
I haven't heard anything personally. I think it's at a point now where Sony can't be making that much money on it now, where it's a big deal if it comes to Xbox. I think it'd be a good time to announce it, I think, if it is happening. But we don't know the extent of Sony's deal with the game. We don't know the extent that Square Enix even thinks it'll perform on Xbox. They probably want Microsoft to do a Game Pass deal for it to like soften their risk, maybe. But maybe Microsoft's like, yeah, we don't want to do that. It feels like Square Enix will only engage with Xbox if Microsoft give them money.
Mm.
And Microsoft's like, yeah, if you want this, you got to put it on Game Pass, and you got to give us a load of money and stuff like that. I don't know. It seems to be working out all right for him so far.
Yeah, Wolf Assassin says, have you guys done your weekly rumors that will end up on Gaming Leaks and Rumors yet? And any tips for first-time Dark Souls player? I'm scared. No, I don't think so. I don't. Have you said anything that you think will be in articles and on Gaming Leaks and Rumors, Jez?
Nah, I don't think so.
Not yet. Could you say something that would end up on Gaming Leaks and Rumors?
Not today. I don't think.
Not today, huh?
Not today.
Hmm.
No leaks today.
Any tips for someone playing Dark Souls for the first time?
You know, I've actually been thinking about writing an article for Dark Souls beginners, for people who are like me, basically just didn't get where the fun when the fun comes in, because I think a lot of beginners guides, they're from people who are like too close to the franchise maybe, and they're sort of like maybe not sure the full reasons why people don't give it a chance. So I might write a beginner's guide for it, or like how to get into Dark Souls, because I've done that for The Long Dark before and some other games. So yeah, I might write something on it. But if you don't want to wait for that, I think the first thing I would suggest is look up, just, you know, try and find like a guide online that is sort of spoiler free, but sort of gives you some ideas of how the combat works and how to level up your character and stuff. Because you can make it a lot easier for yourself by just following some beginner's tips on things like stat weights and what stats not to pick. Like when I first played, I put like a load of points in intelligence, because I was thinking like, yeah, intelligence will increase fire damage, but it doesn't work like that. But there's nothing in the game really that tells you that, to my knowledge. So yeah, there's like loads of little pitfalls and traps, because it is a super nuanced game. But I would say look up a beginner's guide, a simple one, and then, you know, you'll be away. Because it does get, you can make it a lot easier for yourself just by leveling up a bit and getting some early good gear pieces that are sort of hidden, exploring around and stuff like that.
Okay. Uramala says VGAs might be a good audience for the Wu-Tang game. Could be.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know how close that one is either. Achievement says, do you know if the Ori IP is owned by Xbox? I know Xbox likes to give up IP to studios, and they obviously lost some great icons like Alan Wake. Yes, as far as I know, Ori is indeed owned by Xbox. They own the IP. I want to say Remedy always owned the IP to Alan Wake. They just didn't own the publishing rights. And
yeah,
I think
maybe
Xbox, because Quantum Break IP is owned by Xbox. But the Alan Wake IP was I think always owned by Remedy, if I'm not mistaken. It's just that the publishing rights were weird or something with it. So B Staple says the director of Ori 1 and 2 said Microsoft should put their games on every platform, and also explained why they went with Perfect PD instead of MX for their next game.
I don't think, based on some stuff I've heard, I don't think Microsoft will work with Moon Studios ever again directly.
Which is unfortunate, because Ori is amazing.
Yes, it is.
Ori is absolutely amazing. Here's an interesting question. Sheila Slays says, I'm being serious and genuine. What should I be getting excited for when it comes to Xbox exclusive games? Perfect Dark getting this Uncharted achievement, Initiatives game. Why should I care? Nothing's got me hooked from Xbox exclusive wise, and I don't do fanboy BS. Initiatives game will be revealed and it'll be a letdown. And what's gonna get me insanely excited? Blah.
I agree. I don't think Microsoft has done a great job of marketing their exclusives at all. We don't know anything about any of the games. So, I mean, I'd say nothing. There's nothing right now that I can point to and say, yeah, you should be excited for this. I have no idea how Starfield plays. I have no idea how Hellblade plays. If you're not interested in racing games, Flight Simulator or Halo, there's honestly not a lot for you. So, no BS aside, I have no idea what I would point to. I am excited because I have faith in them to deliver with all the money and that's been poured into this platform. I have faith in them to deliver, but it's also a low stake because they're all going into Game Pass, so I don't have to like have a high stakes attitude about it. What do I need to be excited about? It's like I said earlier with Dark Souls. I was so damn tired. I was so damn tired of all the BS from games like Battlefield and Call of Duty and battle passes and microtransaction stuff. It's so nice to just go back and play a pure video game. I have no idea what pure video game is coming out from Microsoft anytime soon. But I trust in Bethesda and Todd Howard, so I'm excited for Starfield. But if you're not into Skyrim and Fallout and those kind of games, again, I don't know what to tell you.
I mean, yeah, I guess. It's hard to really get super excited for games that are only exist in CGI format, like Fables, stuff like that, or Perfect Dark, like just a CGI trailer. I'm more excited because who works on Perfect Dark? Like, I really like Crystal Dynamics and the games they've made. Even, I've talked smack about Avengers, but like the campaign for Avengers was pretty damn good. It was just the multiplayer stuff that was awful. So for me, it's like, I think they're gonna make a game that I want to play. And then like I don't know, like, yeah, we haven't seen anything of Avowed, but like judging from their track record, I think Avowed is going to be pretty damn good. So, but I understand, like, sometimes it's just tough to really get excited for games based off of not a lot of information and just 1 minute CGI cutscenes. Like, I'm really excited for Redfall because I love Arcane. I love Dishonored and Prey. I really like Deathloop. So for me, it's about studio pedigree. So even though some of the leaks that we've seen of Redfall don't present it in the best light, it's like studio pedigree for me is like, I look at Arcane and I'm just like, I trust them. I trust them to make a game that is going to appeal to me in so many different ways. And I look at that game and I'm like, yeah, that's what I want. So I guess it just depends. Yeah, I mean, I understand why people would be like, I don't really see it. And I'll say, well, just wait and find out. Wait and see if it appeals to you. If it doesn't appeal to you, then you have, PC, you got PlayStation, you got Nintendo, you can find what you want there. And then, hey, when those games start coming out and they're great or they're not good or whatever, however this all ends out, then you can make that choice. And, maybe you actually see Perfect Dark gameplay and you're excited by it. Maybe you end up seeing Project Cobalt's gameplay and you're like, damn, that's the game for me, or Starfield, and then that gets you pumped. Everybody has their different tastes and what they like. So, but yeah, I mean, it's hard for me to get excited for stuff based off of CGI trailers, but then sometimes I look at the pedigree of the developer making, and I'm like, that's enough for me to be like, okay, I'm interested. But trust me, like, I want to see Hellblade 2 gameplay. And my excitement for Hellblade 2 is based off of, like, how much I love the first game. And thinking that, okay, they're going to take the next step. That, they built that game on, like, $10 million. They had, like, 20 people making it or whatever it was. And from what Jez has told me and what he's written about Hellblade 2 fills me with, like, the utmost confidence that they're taking that next step. That Hellblade 2 is going to be a game that wouldn't exist without Microsoft money and financing, in the same way that maybe Psychonauts 2 wouldn't be the same game as it is today without the extra time and money that Microsoft allowed them. So, that's some of the stuff, just small stuff for me, but, I know everybody's different. So let's see here. Let's talk about this Battlefield thing really quickly, Jez, because I thought this was interesting. Apparently, Battlefield sold like 4 million copies in 1 week, according to Tom Henderson, which is like second most, or maybe like the most in franchise history. But then I think he also said like player base dropped by like 75%. after 1 week or whatever. So, obviously the game isn't in the best state. However, they're restructuring Battlefield, and Vince Zampella is now leading the entire franchise. And that makes me incredibly happy because, one, I love Battlefield, and I want to see Battlefield return to its glory. I've always felt Battlefield was right there on the cusp of taking over and dethroning Call of Duty as the biggest shooter franchise out there. But it just, I don't know, it sort of ran into too many stumbles. It fell over itself too many times. And when I look at how you would bring it back to the forefront, why not bring in a guy who's never made a bad game? You look at Vince and it's like, dude, the original creator of Call of Duty in the first place, leader of Titanfall, which is absolutely amazing, and Titanfall 2 never got the recognition it deserved because it was sandwiched in between Infinite Warfare and Battlefield 1. And what he did with what?
I forgot about that.
Yeah, is that sandwich that basically screwed Titanfall 2. Because Titanfall, you can make the argument, Titanfall 1 was one of the premier multiplayer experiences of last generation. Like, Titanfall 1 was incredible. It was so forward-looking. And basically giving EA, the second look at essentially doing single-player games with Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. So now, basically, he's given the reins and being like, yeah, bring Battlefield back. And I want Battlefield to come back, and I think Vince is the perfect guy to lead it. So I'm happy because I think he can do it. Because I don't think the guy's done anything wrong or made a bad game since he's been in the game industry. And with that, I think they also announced that they're building a new Seattle studio. Marcus Lato, who's like co-creator of Halo, he's coming in to lead that, to add more like story stuff to the Battlefield. How do you feel? I know you're a big Battlefield fan like I am. How do you feel about Vince being in charge of it all now?
Well, I'm glad that Vince is in charge because Vince knows how to make a game, unlike EA executives. Crucially, I think Vince has the political clout to say no to EA execs. If EA execs are like, yeah, you know what make Battlefield great? Operators. Yeah, that's what we need. We need operators just like Call of Duty and just like, other games, so we can sell skins for those operators. That's exactly what Battlefield needs to get to the next level. Vince hopefully will turn around and say, actually, you know what? That's a stupid idea because that ruins the whole feel of Battlefield. People wanted that. They just go and play Call of Duty. So all you've got here is a bad version of Call of Duty. Why don't you just, not do that? So I think Vince has the clout to just say no to some of the more bullshit ideas that EA executives no doubt want to inject into these games. But you know what, Rand? I think the plan for a more story-driven Battlefield is a total mistake as well.
Okay.
I think Battlefield is a bad franchise for trying to make a story on, personally. I don't think Battlefield's ever had good campaigns. And a lot of people think like Battlefield Bad Company 2 was good, but Battlefield Bad Company was good, but I didn't think so. I thought they were really lame. Every Battlefield campaign has been terrible, in my view. And you know why it's terrible? It's because it's based in the real world. I think it can work sometimes. Spec Ops: The Line, for example, was that where it was? Spec Ops: The Line. Am I thinking of the right game? That had a really great campaign that was grounded in reality. So it can work. I just don't think it will work for Battlefield. And I think what would make far more sense, especially with the Halo creator on board or one of the co-creators, is Titanfall, man. It's sci-fi, for God's sake. You can have aliens, you can have other planets, you can do all kinds of shit with that. Why not do that for Titanfall instead of Battlefield? I don't know why they're so beholden to Battlefield being that franchise that gets to the next level and not Titanfall, when it feels like Titanfall has way more potential for unique story elements. I don't know. But again, it's sort of like another discussion. I think DICE needs some help because Battlefield 5 was weak, and Battlefield 2042 is just tragedy. It's just a mess, absolute mess. The maps are bad, the gameplay systems are bad, the progression system's bad. There's not really that much content in it. Every game that comes out feels like it has less guns and less features and just less everything. Like, what is driving this decline? It's just, I have no idea. So I'm interested to see what Vince would do with it. Like, if he can save it, even, or is people just got tired of Battlefield? Has it run its course? But Vince knows first-person shooters. If anyone can fix it and save it from itself, it's probably Vince. So I think they should just make him CEO at this point. I said this on Twitter. Like, they're basically getting Vince to do everything for them now. He's running their Star Wars effort because EA can't do it. He's running Respawn, which make Apex Legends one of the only good games that EA has released in the last million years. And I wouldn't be surprised if he's soon running BioWare as well. I wouldn't be surprised if he just ends up CEO because the guy who's running it now doesn't seem to have a bloody clue what he's doing. So,
you know, what you said about him having the power to say no, and maybe that being the biggest thing, is probably so true. You know, being the way to say no and being like, no, the game's not launching this year, we need more time, or no, we're doing this and not that. You know, I think that's going to be big. But I mean, if you're going to fix Battlefield and bring it to the next level, I mean, who else would you want than Vince Zampella? Yeah. I don't know. I don't know about BioWare. I sort of think BioWare is just a lost cause at this point, Jez. You know.
Yeah.
I mean,
I want to believe, man. I've heard, you know, I got friends in the industry, and they see my tweets like being negative about Dragon Age or BioWare or whatever, and I've you know, someone's reached out to me recently and said, actually, Dragon Age 4 is shaping up pretty well, and I think you'll be surprised. I want to believe, man. I really do. But after Anthem, after Andromeda, you know, and to a lesser degree, like even Dragon Age Inquisition, like I played a lot of it, but it was just missing something. You could tell EA had its grubby paws all over it, you know. But whatever. Yeah. I think they should just make Vince the CEO. Fire whoever that other guy is. He hasn't done a damn.
Who is the CEO?
Thing.
Andrew Wilson, I think.
I don't know what his name is. Nobody knows because he hasn't done anything good. He hasn't done a single good thing for this company. Nothing. I mean, unless you count, you know, predatory microtransactions in FIFA. I suppose he did a really great job of manipulating people out of their money in FIFA Ultimate Team, which is probably the biggest rip-off in video game history. But yeah, I think they should just get rid of him, put Vince in charge. Vince seems to be the only guy at EA's executive level who has a clue about anything to do with game design and game development. So just make him the CEO. Save yourself the hassle.
Interesting. Achievement says, speaking of arcane pedigree, sad Arx Fatalis didn't get the BC Enhanced, but I got a copy and an OG Xbox. Any recommendations for a first-time player?
I've never played Arx Fatalis.
I never played it either. Yeah.
No. That's Arcane's first game, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I never played it, so
I've never played it, so I can't help you, I'm afraid.
But
I've seen guys online up for it.
Wolf Assassin says, last question, sorry for bugging y'all. Which 2022 third party has a high chance to be a day one Game Pass title? Imagine the next one was Elden Ring. I mean, Elden Ring would be a big one. But I doubt that very much.
I doubt that.
There was that rumor from, I think it was some lady on Twitter who said that they made Xbox and like whoever made like a big deal for a Game Pass title coming in the future. I wonder if that's something that you announced during the Game Awards. You know, because Microsoft has to like, Game Pass is the thing, and so I do think they'll continue to advertise that. Is that something you announced during the Game Awards with everybody tuned in, not just like Xbox fans, but like the whole industry? Is that something where maybe you announce a big third-party Game Pass title? Because I don't know if you saw, but like CD Projekt Red said that, you know, Game Pass or Cyberpunk wasn't going to be coming to Game Pass anytime soon, and they kind of talked about that in a Q&A with the investor call, where they basically said like, yeah, gaming subscription services, we do those. We always look at every business opportunity, but it's too early for Cyberpunk to come to Game Pass.
I think they're planning to re-release Cyberpunk. I really do. The fact they've like basically stopped marketing it and trying to hope in a weird hope that people are going to forget about it. I think they'll re-release it. They'll do like a Cyberpunk, I don't know, Super Edition or something, and hope that kind of like Dark Souls 2, Scholar of the First Sin, kind of like fixed some of the issues people had with it, with the original version. I think they'll try and re-release it as a special, new version with a, subtitle or something. So maybe they don't want to put it in Game Pass for that reason. They don't want to showcase this version. They want people to play the finished super duper version, supposedly, that everyone's hoping for, which I don't think's ever going to come, frankly. But yeah, I think they've got plans for Cyberpunk beyond just dumping it in Game Pass. I think they'll re-release it. But as for like the question, like what third-party games could be in there, I don't think Elden Ring is going to be in there. That they'll want to get all the retail sales on that. Although I will say, I do think Game Pass would really help it. I do think Game Pass, like with the multiplayer and stuff, I do think it would elevate the amount of access to the game, and also like drive it sort of in a viral way. Similar to how Sea of Thieves got and stuff. So, but yeah, I don't think it's going to happen, unfortunately. As for other games, I don't really know a huge deal about what's coming out. So,
here's a good question, Jez. Wait, I just saw it. Isildur's Bane says, Jez, are the Xbox Global Publishing Games IPs owned by Microsoft, or are they just funding them for temporary exclusivity? So something like Contraband.
Every deal is different. So, like, they might own Contraband fully. They might not. Sometimes they own the games fully. Sometimes they don't. Depends on the deal that gets negotiated. Like, Avalanche might be like... Microsoft might be like, yeah, we want to own the Contraband IP. And Avalanche might be like, well, actually, we want to own it. And then they'll negotiate back and forth about it. And I suppose... It depends on the deal. Every deal is unique to the situation. So... There's no one deal does not fit all, unfortunately.
Yeah. Shield Slay says, what about the PlayStation vice president that got caught of a video trying to meet up with the 15-year-old boy to play games?
What is that about? I have no idea what that's about.
I saw it. I saw it earlier. I didn't necessarily want to bring it up on the podcast, but
yeah, shoot that guy out of a cannon if that's true.
Yeah, apparently like an independent pedophile ring.
Like hunters or whatever.
Yeah, here I'll DM you the thing.
I don't want to see it, man. I don't want to see it. I'm good. I'm good, man.
Essentially, he's the senior vice president of PSN, and apparently he was caught trying to meet a 15-year-old boy.
Yeah, I hope they lock him
allegedly,
up, throw away the key, if that's true.
As they say, allegedly. So yeah. Damn God says, question, Rand, do you know anything about Microsoft hiring WB game director? We talked a little bit about that before. How maybe he might be working on Killer Instinct 2, right, Jez? We talked a little bit about that.
Yeah. I hope it's true. I really do. But we should drop a timestamp because we did discuss that at length. But if it's true, then great, because if Sony has exclusivity on Street Fighter, like is the expectation, then Microsoft will be without an exclusive fighting game, which is not going to be good for them. So,
yeah. This whole Sony thing with that 15-year-old is definitely all over Twitter. You'll probably end up seeing it at some point. He showed up to supposedly allegedly meet the kid in a t-shirt, a PS5 t-shirt.
Oh my God. Yeah, he's like his job and career is over. Yeah. That is like the worst imaginable scenario. So grim.
Well, now that we're talking about PlayStation, I guess it's time to talk about the PlayStation Spartacus, which, not a surprise. I think me and Jez have talked about this for a long time. This is something that both me and him expected. Well, it's also something I think we both knew was happening. Spartacus is essentially PlayStation's competitor to Game Pass, or at least they're what they're going to try to compete with Game Pass on. It's going to be like a merging of PlayStation Plus and PlayStation Now with like 3 different tiers. One tier being kind of what it currently is, second tier being like access to PS4 and some PS5 games, and then the third tier maybe being like back compat, PS1, PS2, PSP, stuff like that. Jez, what are your thoughts? Because this is something that you've basically been privy to for quite some time.
Yeah, I'd heard they were going to copy Game Pass 1-to-1, but it's not surprising. Game Pass is working. It's a lot of free extra money. Well, not free. It's a lot of work, but it's increasingly becoming hard to ignore for Sony, I guess. We talked a bit about it earlier, didn't we?
A little bit, but
yeah, it's it all hinges on how it differs, I guess, and to the extent that it actually affects Microsoft, and the competition is good because Sony has. Oh, actually, no, we didn't talk about this earlier. I'm thinking about the discussion I had with Miles about it.
Oh, that's because it's what happens when you do 2 shows the same day. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of. But yeah, it's interesting because it's what's going to be interesting is the differences, is what I was saying. Like, how are they going to do it? Are they going to like have different tiers different to Microsoft? Are they going to have a cloud only tier, something that we don't have on Game Pass right now? Are they going to have a family pass, something that would easily show Microsoft up, because they don't have a family pass for Game Pass right now, which is really annoying for a lot of people, and something that people ask me about all the time. So there's a lot of ways this could go, I suppose. But Microsoft will be looking out for whether the real question on everyone's mind is, are they going to put their first party big titles in their day and date? Are they going to do something like Disney, where you can pay like a premiere pass or something, and then like you pay like a little bit or a lot more extra, and then you do get the games in their day and date, or something like that? There's a lot of ways they can differentiate themselves with their own version of Game Pass. And one part of this rumor is that they're going to be leveraging nostalgia a lot, which means they're going to be putting a lot of their classic PlayStation 1, PS2, and PS3 games in there, supposedly emulated via the cloud, because PlayStation can't do that natively for some games, as far as I'm aware, at least not PS3. So there's a lot of nostalgia they can tap into there. There's a lot of ways they can look at what Microsoft are doing wrong and things that they think they can do might be better than Microsoft at. But it'll ultimately, for Xbox fans and Xbox gamers and you guys who are listening to the show, it should lead to a better Game Pass, because if Sony does something that's super popular, you can bet your ass that Microsoft will copy it, right?
Yeah, kind of like how they copied Games with Gold when they were doing PS Plus, and that's how we got Games with Gold.
Yeah, exactly. So,
even though Games with Gold sucks now, right?
Games with Gold
it didn't suck
terrible.
before.
No, it does suck. It sucks really bad. I think they should put Games with Gold out to pasture. I really do. So it's just embarrassing right now.
So the big thing people are talking about is that it doesn't have day-and-date games, which...
Is that confirmed?
I think Jason Schreier said that.
Okay.
That it wouldn't, which I didn't expect it to, but I think at some point they will.
Yeah, I think so too.
I remember Game Pass didn't have day-and-date games either until later. So this is something they need to do, because PlayStation Now is an abject failure, and PlayStation Plus is an abject success, right? So they know that PlayStation Now is a failure. So what better way to really like kind of combine the two into more of a mega subscription, where you have PlayStation Plus combined with PS Now. And I am interested in seeing the tiers and the pricing on the tiers, because I want to say PlayStation Plus is $5 a month, or maybe it's more than that, where PlayStation Now is, I think, $10 a month. So it'll be interesting to see the individual tiers and what the tiers are. Like, what do you get with tier 1? What do you get with tier 2? And what do you get with tier 3? Now, it's interesting that supposedly they're locking nostalgia behind tier 3 with PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, and PSP games. My question is, are those games emulation? Are they going to add trophies to them?
My guess is
it's interesting that Sony would, if they are locked behind a subscription like Nintendo Online stuff is right now, where the Nintendo 64 games are locked behind a subscription, that could essentially be what Sony's planning. But I'll say this about old games. I don't think people subscribe to a service for old games. Now, people would say, well, Rand, what about Nintendo Online? And I'll be like, well, that's cheaper. Plus, Nintendo fans are always the exception to the rule when it comes to a lot of this stuff. Like, they have a lot of love.
You need Nintendo Online to play online as well.
Well, yeah, you do. And presumably, if this is all merging the PlayStation Now, that is their online access too, right?
Yeah.
I sort of feel like not a lot of people would sign up to that third tier for the older games because nobody really wants to play old games in this like generate or like this time. Like, and people will say, well, what about Friends on Netflix, or what about any of the older TV series, or what about old, like, Spotify has all the incredible old music. But gaming's different. Well, someone might turn on The Office on Peacock or have Seinfeld playing or any of this old stuff. Old legacy content on streaming, on Netflix and Spotify, they still fill a purpose. Like, people still love to listen to Led Zeppelin, and they love to listen to Pink Floyd and any of the older stuff as well as all the new stuff. But gaming, I feel as that people have moved beyond PS1 and PS2 games. And that was one of the criticisms about Game Pass in the beginning, if you remember, was that a lot of the catalog was like split. It was like half Xbox One and like half 360 games. And a lot of people were like, who cares about these old 360 games? And I agree, because one of the things we had heard about, one of the reasons that PlayStation Now wasn't gaining any traction, even though Sony fans would shout from the rooftops that maybe it's a better value than Game Pass because it has 800 games. Like, PlayStation Now had like 800 games on the service, and Xbox Game Pass has like 200. But the reason that nobody cared about the 800 games is because, essentially half of them, or 500 of them, were PS3 games. And I don't think people want to subscribe to the service to play older PS3 games, right? Yeah. So I sort of feel that like them having the highest tier for backwards compatible emulation, especially when Xbox offers that for free, is a weird stance to take, because I don't really think people are going to subscribe to that. I surely wouldn't. And anybody who's not interested in playing PS1 and PS2 games surely wouldn't. So that third tier kind of seems, I don't know, not really well thought out. And if PlayStation Now didn't grow, and I think what I was saying is the PlayStation Now didn't grow because people wanted new content. And PlayStation Now didn't offer new content quickly. Unlike Game Pass, which did offer new content, even if you take away Microsoft's own first-party games in the service, they were still offering indie games day one quite a bit, and a lot of games that were coming to the service 3 to 6 months to a year later. But PlayStation Now really wasn't doing that. So I think just from that data set, you can tell that people, one, don't care about back compat, and I don't think just the back compat stuff is going to appeal to a lot of people. Now,
I think the back compat stuff is how you generate conversation and how you generate, like, people talking about nostalgia. Like Xbox got a ton of news posts about like some of their nostalgic games hitting the service, because like a lot of the writers are older, and they're like, oh yeah, I remember that, man. I think even I wrote about Max Payne, So like there's something to be said about putting nostalgic games in there, but I think you're totally right that it doesn't make the service. It's going to be all about the big headline making games like God of War and so on. And I think Sony will realize pretty quickly that it's not going to work unless they do put the games in there day and date.
Well, Zero Pile says, did you guys see the video of a PlayStation PSN senior president get caught trying to meet a 15-year-old? We did just talk about that. Mahler X says, clickbait article by Schreier. Article title said competitor Game Pass, but actual article said no day one first party games. True, but let me tell you guys, like, just because it's not competing on that front with Sony not putting their games day one in there doesn't mean it's not competing with Game Pass. Internally, Sony views this as a Game Pass competitor. I don't know if you, like, Jason Schreier was on Reset Era answering some questions, and he literally said, Sony internally views this as a Game Pass competitor. So if Sony thinks it's a Game Pass competitor, despite it not having day one games, then it's a competitor. Now, yeah, sure, it doesn't have day one games right away, but as we all can tell, Sony is basically kind of dipping their feet into all this stuff. Like, look, when I said Horizon Zero Dawn was coming to PC, and I said that was going to be the start of their initiative on PC, nobody believed me. And I was fine with that because I knew I was right, because I had so many sources on that with me. And what have we seen here? Sure, taking some time, and maybe COVID's to blame for it, but essentially, every PlayStation game is going to be on PC. We already know this. God of War's coming out, like Uncharted's coming out. Basically, Sony's going to be putting all their games moving forward on PC. The question, of course, is day and date. I don't know if they'll do day and date right away, and I've always said I think they will, but years down the road. And then but people initially were like, Sony's not doing this. Sony isn't going to put their games on PC. And then when they did, they all took to Herman Hell's quote, like, it's just one game, and all the fanboys were like, it's only going to happen a couple times. And then it was like, no, it's the entire slate. And then people were like, well, this is fine as long as it's 2 to 3 years away. But I'm telling you guys, it's not going to be 2 to 3 years away. You're going to be looking at a year difference between them, whatever, right? And now you have this. And sure, right now, it's not going to be day and date. But I'm telling you, at some point down the road, it's going to be day and date. They're going to put their own games in this service. And whether it's tier 3 for $30 a month or what have you, they're gonna do it. They're gonna do it with the game and see how it works. They may not come out and say, moving forward, all of our games are gonna be day and date, but they're gonna add one, just like they did PC, and they're gonna see, and they're gonna take the data, and they're gonna be like, okay, can we do this? Is this worth it? How much is this gonna drive up subscriptions? How much can we actually charge for this? And if it all works out, then they're gonna do it. Some people don't like the fact that subscription services are maybe the future, but like, they certainly are the future in almost virtually every other entertainment sector. There's so many sort of subscription services out there that it was only a matter of time. Sony's just kind of doing things a little bit more on the slower end. And I think their fan base... The funny thing to me isn't that Sony's doing this, because I've always thought and knew they were going to. The funny thing is the backtracking. To me, the goalpost moving, essentially. I love to see it because you knew it was going to happen. It happened with the PC releases, and now it's happening with the subscription service. Like, stop. I guess what I would say to PlayStation fans is stop speaking in absolutes. Number one, you don't know anything. And you never have. 2, Sony doesn't care for your console war, and neither does Microsoft at all. Their businesses chasing money. They want your money. They're not your friends. I mean, I talk about Xbox all the time, and so does Jez. But I know that Xbox isn't my friend. Even though Xbox sends me review copies for games, I know, and I do have friends at the company. I know at the end of the day that Microsoft and Xbox as a corporation, I'm just dollar signs to them. And I was dollar signs to them before when I was buying everything, and I'm still dollar signs to them now when I'm buying stuff. But I'm also like dollar signs to them because like I talk about this stuff and other people will buy things based on my recommendations. So now I bring them more money. Like Microsoft, like corporations only care about you in the sense of how much value you bring to them. And I think everybody needs to realize this. So they don't care about your console war. They don't care that you didn't want their games to come on PC because you think it devalues your console because it's not special anymore. Sony begs to differ, right? And the same thing with the subscription service. Like, I get it. The subscription service, Xbox fans were talking about Game Pass and saying how great it was. And PlayStation really didn't have a competing one. So PlayStation fans were like, well, Game Pass sucks. And who's going to pay, how the dev's going to get paid for all this, and Game Pass fodder games and all the stuff, simply because PlayStation didn't have a competitor. But now that PlayStation's building a competitor, and that PlayStation internally views it as a competitor, even if it's not doing day and date right away, now you see the backtracking. And my advice would be, stop speaking in absolutes. Stop speaking that Sony's never going to do this, or they're never going to do that, or they're not going to do this, and they're not going to do that. You're speaking from an emotional core because you want to feel special. You want to feel like you're part of some elite special group, that you go into the treehouse and there's like a special like kind of handshake and everybody's wearing their PlayStation jackets and you're all just part of this club, when in reality it's a consumer product that literally anybody can buy, although it's a little bit hard now because of the shortage. And that PlayStation is going to do what's best for their business. That's what's best for your console war on Twitter and elsewhere. You need to get over that completely and start thinking like a business. That's why me and Jez are saying PlayStation's going to bring their games to PC. PlayStation's going to do a competitor to Game Pass. And I'm telling you guys, PlayStation's going to put their games on day and date on eventually. It's not going to be right away, but it's going to be years from now. And I guess my point is never say never, because look where you ended up. Like, come on, guys. This isn't shocking. And I too, like, I need to find out more about this. I want to know what the 3 tiers are. I want to know what the pricing is. Which one's going to be the tier that they want you to subscribe to? Is it going to be the second tier? So instead of $10 a month, maybe it's $20 a month to get some PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 games. But then how many games is it going to be? You know, the third tier with back and pat. How extensive is the back and pat catalog? Are they going to, emulate trophies? How expensive is that going to be? Like, there's so many things that we don't know about. The only thing that we know is that they're building this service and they're testing it out, right? So, yeah, I don't know. It's just funny to log on Twitter and just seeing, like, all this stuff happening when it wouldn't happen unless you just didn't take this absolute stance. I don't know. It's just, whatever. Like, it's just, I don't know. Do you have anything to add to that? Because,
I think you covered everything there, mate. It is ultimately about the details, the minutiae for now. But I have heard, like I say, from sources that Sony's going to go day and day on it. Eventually, but we'll just have to wait and see how long that actually takes.
Yeah. Gamer by Choice says, yeah, people should stop speaking in absolutes. They absolutely should. I'm for a Sony service. I'm not against subscription services. Like, I have Netflix, but I'm on my buddy's subscription on that. I get all the streaming solutions. I only actually pay for Prime and Disney Plus on mine. I'm on my buddy's Netflix and my buddy's Hulu and my buddy's HBO Max. Oh, wait, I also have Apple TV. So I have most of the streaming services, and I watch stuff from all the time, and I think they're great. And And obviously, I think you guys saw the tweet I put out. Like, I'm subscribed to Game Pass for the next 3 years. Like, I'm good to 2024. Would I prefer to Sony to put their games in their own service day one? Hell yeah. And if they did, I'd probably subscribe right away. Because it's definitely going to be a lot cheaper to subscribe to their service than it is to pay $70 for each one of their games. As a consumer, that benefits me. I care about my wallet. I'd rather spend at least amount of money to get the most out of it, And I also think some people don't like, they've been going at Xbox games like, hey, you can play Forza Horizon and Halo Infinite for $1, and they'll make fun of that. And I think they've been giving it to Xbox fans so long on that front that they're afraid that suddenly Xbox fans will be like, can't wait to play, this game and this game for $1,
I mean, dude, this frees me from having to buy a PlayStation because I will play it from the cloud. Because PlayStation Now, it's not bad. It actually works. And I've been waiting, like, I played God of War first on PlayStation Now. And, but then he left the service. I unsubscribed. Genius move by Sony there. But now it's coming to PC, so I'm just going to play it on PC anyway. But the devs don't lose money. They get more money because I wouldn't have been able to play it otherwise because, like you say, where the hell does one even buy a PlayStation these days? There's like no stock anywhere.
Yeah.
So.
Plus, like you said, you mentioned earlier the patents of Sony building like some sort of like mobile controller. Like it definitely does seem that Sony saw the playbook that Microsoft is making and is essentially falling along behind them. Maybe doing things a little bit slower. Microsoft was quick to jump on the PC train, and it looks like it's really brought them a lot of success. Now Sony's they're all in on the PC side of things, even though they're not doing things day and date right now. They're definitely getting closer than, before it was they never put their games on PC. Now it's like, okay, well, it's just the older games, but just wait when essentially they announce Returnal that comes to PC and you're like, oh, or any of the newer stuff. And it's like, okay, PlayStation Plus was always the competitor to Xbox Live Gold, and PlayStation Plus does pretty well. Like, I think it had like somewhere like 47 million subscribers. It does well, and it should do well considering PlayStation was the one out there selling the most consoles. And you sell the most consoles, you get the most people that want to play multiplayer games and multiplayer, so it's like, yeah. But PlayStation Now was an abject failure. I mean, they have that, didn't they start that in like 2014? Right? Yeah. But they couldn't get any traction with it, mainly because what it offered for what it was offering for the how do I say this? The offering it had, mainly at the time, streaming only and mostly PS3 games for a certain price. I think at the time when it came out was like $20. It was overpriced and it didn't have anything people wanted. So the service never took off. And then Game Pass came out. And suddenly PS Now went from streaming only to streaming and download. And they started adding more PlayStation 4 games. But the games they were adding weren't new enough, and that's my whole point. Like, I sort of feel that nobody's subscribing to these services to play old games, unlike Netflix and Spotify, where people subscribe because they want to watch whatever they want to watch or listen to whatever they want to listen to, whether it's new or old. Gaming is different. Gaming is all about the here and now. Gaming is all about FOMO. It's all about FOMO. It's being in that discussion of when the game first releases. It's about having those limited edition skins in these battle pass events that are gone away. Like, gaming thrives on FOMO, right? Because if you're not bought in by the FOMO, then you don't care about the limited edition skins. Then you don't have to wait. Like, if you don't care about the FOMO or being part of the day one conversation, then you're not spending $70 or $60. Hell, you can wait like a month or 2 months and games are on sale for $40. Like, you don't have to do day one stuff. But like, PlayStation Now didn't offer anything new. It wasn't offering Sony's own games. It wasn't offering any new indies or PlayStation 4 titles. It was just older content. And nobody wanted it, so nobody subscribed. And I'm telling you, nobody's going to want that, and nobody's going to subscribe for that unless there's significant changes to the service. I do think, however, it is smart for Sony to combine both of those, because PlayStation Plus is a success. And I think combining them is the best thing to do. We just have to see what else they have planned. So, yeah. Some people are immune to FOMO. Some people aren't. I'm definitely immune to it when it comes to like skins and stuff because I don't care. But I will admit that sometimes I do succumb to it to games like when they first come out. Like sometimes I'll be like, you know what? I need to buy this because I want to talk about it. When in reality I should wait and buy it later on, right? So yeah. I think Jason Schreier said that they plan to launch this sometime next year in the spring, Jez, as well.
Right, so pretty close then, really.
And you know who's really going to benefit from this outside of consumers, because they're both going to be competing back and forth and will win the benefits of it, is that developers. Is that because now you're going to have two competing services trying to get games, they can essentially charge more or be like, hey, you know what, Microsoft, we'd love to be on Game Pass, but PlayStation's offering this amount of money to us.
Yeah.
So essentially it really does support the developers, unlike the arguments that some people have been making for the last 3 years. Oh man, at least I don't have to go and go through my history of tweets and delete stuff because I ended up being wrong. You know how many so many people are out there deleting their tweets because people keep receipts, man. People are getting exposed for like suddenly cheerleading Spartacus when they were talking smack about like, you know, subscription services essentially the whole time, but
it's like you say, people need to like separate the company from their fandom. You know, it's okay to be a fan of a company or something because it's fun. It's nice to like celebrate and, you know, look forward to things, and that's part of the whole gaming thing, is being a fan of some of the devs and stuff. But at the same time, you have to sort of keep a level head about it because they are still businesses at the end of the day, and their business is often clash with, you know, what your I don't know how to say it, what your sort of perception of reality is. You know, sometimes things work out differently to how like you expect, and if you constantly like focus on being a fanboy all the time, you're going to end up in a situation where you trip yourself up and make yourself look stupid. And like you say, a lot of people are getting checked on this stuff at the moment.
Yeah. Just, I guess, never say never to anything. You know, like, don't come out here and say, well, Sony's not doing day and date ever, because at some point they will try it. Or Sony's not going to put day and date games on PC, because I'm telling you, at some point they will. They may not come out and say like immediately that they're doing it, but some game's going to be day and date on PC, whether it's a multiplayer title, whatever, and they're going to look at it. And they're going to look at all the data. Did it affect console sales? How much extra did the PC audience give them? How much money did they make off that stuff? And then they'll make a determination if that's something they can do with all their future games. Sony's very slow to do this stuff. I'm telling you guys. There's going to be a first for everything. And then they'll decide from there. So don't ever say they'll never do it. Because you're going to be I'm telling you, you're going to be regretting it in the future. But anyways, I think that's really. Oh yeah, then the Halo changes. I think we mentioned this before. They added all the extra XP to like the first 6 games, like 300 XP for your first and 200 XP for your second and third, so that people can progress more rapidly. They're changing some of the playlists, or at least adding more. I think Fiesta, Free For All, and Team SWAT, I think, are going to be added towards later in the month of December and not on December 8th. So they said, the funny thing is like, oh, we listened to the feedback and we're doing this. It's like, did you really need to listen to the feedback to know that people wanted actual playlists? Like, come on. Like,
yeah.
You knew that, like, I understand how it is. It's like, we listen to you, the user, and you, the user, has said you want this, so we, the company, are providing you this. It's like, come on. You know, like, you knew people were talking about that in the flights, and you knew it was a thing, and it's like, well, Halo's a living game, so it's just like, whatever. So here come the playlists, right? Same thing with the challenge system. I do wonder if they're going to keep the challenge system as the way it is, or not just completely change it when Season 2 starts and stuff. So, yeah, so all those changes are coming to Halo. But you know what? I think that's a pretty good spot to end the show. We'll take some questions, of course, as always. So if you got a question, make sure to ask it in the chat. Me and Jez will get to it. I want to thank each and every one of you for being here, whether you were typing in the chat or lurking or sending us a super chat. We appreciate all the support. I'm sorry that we had to do this on a Saturday again. I know it can be frustrating when sometimes it's Friday and sometimes it's Saturday. I completely apologize. You know, we'll always try to be better doing that. It's just life kind of gets in the way sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, this will be up later on Spotify and all those different things. And you said that we're going to be answering questions on Spotify, Jez? Is that something as well? Like, that's going to happen?
So, recently I discovered that I was using a VPN to get on Netflix in a different country. And then I just happened to look at the Anchor app, which Anchor lets us put the podcast on Spotify. And I happened to notice that some people on Spotify had sent us in voice messages, or on Anchor, rather. So on Anchor.fm, or well, you can go to the Xbox2.com, and then you can click send a voice message. You can send like a voice message to the show, ask a question, whatever. And I noticed that we got in a bunch of these questions, but because I'm in the UK, the whole system is just turned off for me. So I had no idea people were sending in questions until today. So we've got a couple of questions from like all the way back in May that I want to answer, and those will be like little mini Q&A sessions, and those will be up on Spotify exclusively. Just because of the way that they come in, and like handling them in the middle of the live show would be too complicated for us to achieve right now. But that's where we're going with that. So if you do like in the middle of the week, just, you know, want to send a message or ask a question or anything of that nature, you know, you can do it at the Xbox2.com, and then send a voice message in there, and then the Q&A show will appear randomly on Spotify. These will only be short little things, like 20 minutes long. Well, I suppose longer if more people send questions in. Maybe I'm biting off a bit more than we can chew here, but anyway, we'll give it a go. We'll see how it goes, eh?
Yeah.
That's all we can do. That's all you can do in life.
Yeah, so if you guys enjoyed the show, make sure you hit the like button, and yeah, let's get to some questions here. We got Whittia saying, any thoughts about the minor awards for the TGAs? You know, it's one of the things we didn't predict winners. I guess we can do a little prediction now, Jez. Do you think Forza Horizon 5 will win its category it's nominated for, best sports racing game?
Yeah, I think it'll win.
It'll definitely win. I just go to the big one, game of the year. You have Deathloop, you have Psychonauts 2, you have Ratchet and Clank, you have It Takes Two, which Take-Two is suing because for whatever reason, I don't know if you guys saw that, but It Takes Two. What else is not? Metroid Dread, and what's the other game I'm missing? Psychonauts 2? Is that 6 games?
Yeah. That sounds right.
Which one do you think is going to win?
I think Ratchet and Clank will probably win.
Ratchet and Clank, you think is going to win? Okay.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
See,
what do you think is going to
win? I've said it's like I think it's a 3-way race between Deathloop, Psychonauts, and Ratchet and Clank. And I'm just going to go with what I probably should say Ratchet because it reviewed very well, but like I thought Ratchet was just okay. It was a good game, but in no way, shape, or form I thought it was like game of the year. But out of those, There's a part of me that thinks Deathloop is going to win because reviewers loved it and it's the most recent game, well, outside of Metroid Dread. But you know what? I'm gonna go with Psychonauts 2.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't know. I think reviewers really vibed with the story that Tim Schafer was telling. And I don't know. I sort of feel like that could win. And that I'm, whatever. Like I said, I think Psychonauts 2. That'd be the one I'm predicting. Although, like, I think it's I think it's one of those three, like I mentioned. So, Jayhawk says he thinks it's going to be Take-Two that wins. It's the most unique and original. Like, I would love it if Take-Two wins, because I agree with you. Awesome. I do think it is the most unique and original title out of all those. But I don't know if I'm thinking about who the media is going to select. I think it's going to be Psychonauts. Although I wouldn't be surprised with Ratchet or Deathloop. So
that's the weird thing about award shows. You sort of like, to win an award, you have to appeal to the media rather than the audience, which is so weird to me. If I was making an award show, I would put the media votes as the lesser vote versus the public. I mean, yeah, maybe the issue there is that, the public can brigade things and and that kind of thing, or it could be more potential for manipulation if it's a public vote, I suppose. Especially like if, like, say for example, EA decides, you know what, we want to win the Game Awards, we'll just pay a bunch of shills to upvote our game or something. Maybe that's why they don't do it that way. I don't know. But it just feels weird to me that how do we arrive at a diverse industry if we're only like, sort of making games to appeal to a small number of people? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's something else to talk about. But yeah.
Ermi says, Rand Jez, do you think Nintendo doubling the Switch Online price leaves open Sony and Microsoft to justify a future price uptick?
I think we talked about price increases last week, didn't we?
Yeah.
I think there's a good chance that Microsoft will adjust for inflation next year, maybe, because we do have all this inflation stuff going on right now as the economy shifts out of COVID land. But I don't know if they'll do like a hard price increase anytime soon. But I think you think differently, don't you, Ron?
Well, it depends. Like, I could see them raising it $1 and being like, hey,
yeah.
But like, I'm thinking more, when I think of a price increase, I'm thinking more like Game Pass that is now $10 is now $15. And Ultimate is, instead of being 15, is now 20. Like, when I think of like $1, I don't really think of that as a true price increase. I think of them as just adjusting for inflation. So while I agree with you, I think it's possible. I think a true price increase where they, it's like $15 instead of 10 or whatever is, I think, years down the road.
Fair enough.
But yeah, I mean, who really knows? I don't know. I wonder how much like the shortages of consoles affects that too, because that does also affects how many people get into the service of Game Pass, right? Because the console's kind of the gateway for it. And if you can't get the consoles out there, then you can't get the users in. So, yeah.
This is true.
Soil Clinic says, Rand Jez, do you think the PlayStation Pass will accelerate Xbox acquisitions? Also, what would be your ideal Xbox acquisition? No, I don't think it'll accelerate it, mainly because I think Xbox has known for a while that PlayStation is going to do this. So it's probably in their thoughts and in their planning that PlayStation would sort of do the same thing. Acquisitions are always a tricky thing. They take a long time, and sometimes they break apart. I don't think this will accelerate their plans, because I do think Xbox already has it in their plans that they are going to acquire. I don't think they'll be taken off guard by any of this. I don't know, do you agree with that, Jez, at all?
Well, my sourcing on them copying Game Pass was an Xbox source, so yeah, they knew.
Yeah,
they knew.
So, as I think I've talked about my ideal Xbox acquisition, if you talk about developer versus publisher, for me, my ideal publisher acquisition is Warner Brothers Games. I think it virtually fills every uh, area that Xbox needs. With fighting games, you get NetherRealm, kids games, you get Traveler's Tale, superhero games, you get Rocksteady and Warner Brothers Montreal. If you can work out a deal for exclusive licensing. And then you still have like Monolith who can do whatever, and you have a bunch of support studios which Xbox needs. I feel like they fit what Xbox needs most. I know Jez personally, you would like Capcom, but
I think Capcom solves that way more than Warner Brothers. With Capcom, you get fighting game, you get tons of nostalgia, which is something Xbox lacks. Yeah, with Warner Brothers, you do get loads of cool stuff, but you also get loads of licensing issues potentially. And I don't know. I think I would prefer Warner Brothers if they just bought the entirety of Warner Brothers. Screw it, just go nuts.
So just bought all of Discovery and just owned HBO and like DC
Yeah.
Comics and everything. Just own it all.
Yeah, go mad. Buy all of it. Buy everything. Buy Batman. Buy Superman. Buy DC. Buy the whole damn thing. Spend $50 billion and do it. Just YOLO it, man. Just go YOLO. Find that money down the back of the sofa, Microsoft. We know you got it.
Okay. What about an individual studio? Like, I would say, personally, for me, it would either be between Crystal Dynamics, which I do think Xbox is going to get eventually, or IO Interactive would be mine. I don't know. What about for you?
I would say, individual studio. I would like to see them get 11. Well, this is weird because 11-bit studios is sort of starting to straddle the line between publisher and studio because they've started a publishing arm now. They announced that they're dropping their in-house engine for Unreal Engine. So they are sort of 11-bit are on the cusp of becoming like a serious like sort of mini publisher almost. But I really like 11-bit studios. Like Frostpunk is one of my favorite games of last gen, and they make loads of smaller games like Moonlighter, which I thought was amazing, and also Children of Morta, which is a very underrated game. So I would like, if from the indie world, I would like to see them by them. But if we're talking like slightly bigger studios, maybe I would like to see them grab. I don't know. I think Crystal Dynamic too, probably. Even though I'm not the biggest fan of Tomb Raider out there, I think probably it would align more with the ambitions of what they're trying to do with Perfect Dark as a franchise and what the initiative's trying to do as well. And they could sort of like merge the two studios maybe or something and just merge the initiative into Crystal Dynamics. I think that'd be an interesting proposition, but
yeah,
I don't know.
Let's see what else here. Face says, didn't Herman Hulse already say in an interview that they will do day and date when it makes sense for them? Last of Us Part 2 multiplayer will be on PC day one. If he did say that, I completely missed it. I don't recall him saying that, but it's certainly, I mean, if they're doing a multiplayer game, it makes sense to put it everywhere. So maybe Last of Us 2 multiplayer is something they do day and date, and they see what the data is, and who knows. But I don't recall that interview. But you're a PlayStation dude, so you would know better. Maybe he has. I don't know. Let's see. Drudden says, "What do you guys think of Halo Infinite right now? Do you like it as a game?" Find out next week. Or listen to my preview, I guess. Let's see. I think someone said, do we think Dying Light 2 will outsell Elden Ring?
That's actually a really interesting question. What do you think, Rand?
No.
No?
No? Actually, that is an interesting question because I know Elden Ring is people like are super excited for it, but it also doesn't have like the most mainstream appeal. But then Dying Light, I don't know. That is interesting. Like at first I was thinking At first I
you
was
see what I
thinking
mean,
like,
man?
nah, like Elden Ring got that in the bag. But then I was just like, I don't know. Dying Light did sell pretty well. This one does have co-op. It's
I
like,
feel like, yeah, I think that people might be put off from Elden Ring purely on the basis of fear. You know what I mean? I don't know.
XD says, Jez, you said that Xbox didn't buy Gearbox because Randy Pitchford, yet they bought Double Fine with Tim Schafer. CEO with controversies doesn't seem like a problem.
Tim Schafer has controversies. If Tim Schafer has controversies, that's the first I've heard about it.
Mm.
What controversies did Tim Schafer have? I thought he was like specifically uncontroversial.
I don't know. I don't know any controversy. I got a DM from somebody, Jez, and he said, hey, you guys can't just drop a bomb about Moon Studios not working with Xbox ever again and leave us guessing why. Can you please elaborate? So,
I mean, I've heard that, like, I don't know. I've heard that they just didn't have the best working relationship, you know, long story short. I've heard there was, like, sort of, I don't know, developmental differences and just things happened, I guess. I don't know any specifics, so I don't want to really make any accusations. I've literally just heard what I've said, is that they won't work with them again. So you can take from that what you will. I know basically about as much as you do there.
Mm. Okay. Ermi says, do you think major content updates like Sea of Thieves Season 5, Quake's Horde Mode, etc. is planned out to fill in between new game releases?
That's a good question. I think they will do that if they can. But I think, like, at the same time, they won't force it. If it's ready to be released, they'll just release it. And if it's sort of like, if it needs to be delayed, then they'll delay it. But I do think they may be gun for that. Maybe. Would make sense to me, right? At least.
Yeah, I don't know. I really don't see like content updates like that is planned out to fill in between new game releases. I sort of feel like that's just like stuff they have planned and then they release it, and it's just, I don't think it's planned as like, oh, well, you need to have this out now because there isn't another game until at this point. It's just
I think they will. I think they will do it. I think they will use it like that if the opportunity arises. I do anyway.
Elitist says, do you think Nintendo will make a Game Pass competitor to like Sony?
Well, you could kind of say Nintendo Online is sort of their first foray into that, or the expansion pass rather. So like their expansion pass is basically like, it's almost like an experiment where they're sort of like, can we make a subscription service that's just for DLC? And it's quite interesting, really. They put the Animal Crossing DLC in there, which supposedly is really good. I got a friend, shout out to Drea, who plays it a lot, and she said it was really good, and I trust her opinion. I haven't really played it myself, so but that's just like one game. But didn't they announce something else is going in there soon, Rand?
What?
For the expansion pass. I don't know what it was, but
dude, you know I don't follow Nintendo stuff.
Why not? You should, man.
Who cares about Nintendo?
Man.
Outside of Miles Dampier, who cares?
I care. Man.
No, you don't. You care about Dark Souls now.
I still care about Pokemon and Metroid. I still haven't finished Metroid Dread though. You know. I want to say I think Metroid Dread is overrated.
You think so?
I do. It's so linear. It's so not what I expect out of Metroid personally. The fact that it teleports you around to the parts of the map you need to be on, I think that's kind of lame. But I don't know. Maybe it's just me.
Okay, well, you know what? I think that's the last question we see here. So thank you guys so much for tuning into the show. We both appreciate it greatly, and we should be back next week on Friday. The show will be up on all the podcast services, and if you have any extra questions on Spotify or whatever, you can log in there and drop us a voice message, and Jez will see it, and then we'll answer it in like a little like mini Xbox 2 or something, I guess. I don't know. So
Xbox Q and A, we'll call it.
yeah,
Or
you know,
something.
I can't believe it's December already. This is
Yeah,
we got a month left, and don't forget code XB2 at the checkout. Manscaped, right, Jez?
Oh yeah, Manscaped. XB2 in the checkout at manscaped.com, 20% off. Loads of great gifts there for, Christmas and New Year's and whatever other celebrations, birthdays, Valentine's Day. What else would you get someone for Manscaped products for? I don't know.
The
Gender
Valentine's Day
reveal
is a good
party.
one. Imagine if your girlfriend got you Manscaped stuff and was just like, I want you to use this for Valentine's Day.
Yeah. Can you please use this? Can you please use it, please?
Forte says Nintendo will win NPD for November. Of course they will. They're Nintendo. It's the Switch. The question is, Forte, who's going to win between Xbox and PlayStation? That's what people want to know. Nintendo winning is kind of just commonplace at this point, right? So, HM says, I thought you'd go Saturday next week so you could talk about the Game Awards. I think the Game Awards are on Thursday, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we do the show on Friday so we can talk about the Game Awards the next day, because I don't think the Game Awards are on Friday.
I'm not going to watch the full show, but I'll happily talk about the trailers.
Yeah, BS Staples says, Jez ran tech Twitter notifications. You're tagged in a post from the Ori 1 and 2 director about why he went with Private Division for his next game instead of Microsoft. Will do.
God.
Will do. I have not read that yet. But yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. And we'll be here next week on Friday to talk about Xbox and everything gaming. So I hope you guys have a great weekend. And see you next week. Later.